Hey everyone, this is every uncommon, common, rare, and shop relic in the game ranked, and basically a quick guide on how happy you should be when you see them in your runs, and more importantly, probably how happy you are when you see them in your shop and you're debating whether to spend money on them. So hopefully you enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one. We're going to split this up into rarities. So if you're not in the know, relics have different rarities, and that affects how often they can drop, as well as prices you will pay for them in the shop. In this game, prices are kind of compacted a little bit. So common relics in the old game used to cost around 160, 170. In this game, they cost about 200. So the difference between a rare relic and a common relic or an uncommon relic is not so different anymore. Meaning that if you're buying stuff at a shop, the relic needs to be pretty good. So common relics might get docked a little bit. Obviously, if you're picking them up and you see them very often, like you do with a lot of commons, then you're going to be pretty happy. But we will factor in money as well. Okay, let's start alphabetical order. Amethyst Aubergine. Enemies drop 10 additional gold. In this game, enemies tend to drop around that amount, the average hallway encounter. So this essentially reads double gold for most fights, except for elites, which have a default bumped up amount of money. But I think the fact that this does nothing immediately when the scariest part of the game is early game means that I don't really like it that much. And it feels like it's pretty dead on average. We'll throw this in B tier for now. So unsure if that's going to change later, but I think I'm going to be waiting these things that upon pickup are going to do immediate stuff. And obviously half the time this is not really doing anything in the run. I think money in this game is just not as good as it was in previous games in general, previous game. Second is Anchor. So this is returning from the first game. It is the exact same. Start each combat with 10 block. Straight into S tier. Probably one of the best common relics you can possibly have. This is insane front load value, saves so much HP in every fight, like elites and hallways as well. Lets you play your powers to set up. That's one of the bigger things that I think if you're managing HP in this game, that having front load block for free is going to allow you to win more fights, because now suddenly you don't have to make this decision of, do I play my echo form or domain on turn 1? I can instead just do it because I don't have to think about the HP loss. So incredibly, incredibly strong. I think when I was a newer player, I underrated a lot of these boat relics that were just doing front-loaded block stuff, but all of them are insanely good, and I think this is one of the best ones for sure. Second, Bag of Prep. At the start of combat, draw 2 additional cards, completely unchanged from Spire 1 as well. Straight into S tier. Similar reasoning. Having front load, I don't have to spend my energy on draw. Makes my turn ones brick less often. Gets me set up faster. Means that I save HP everywhere. And every single fight, this is just saving HP no matter what. 2 cards is incredibly powerful. Card selection in this game is also incredibly powerful. And a lot of combos exist in this game where I want to draw 2 cards together. So having this means that you're going to be able to land your broken stuff way more often, which is going to win you a lot of runs. Okay, Blood Vial. At the start of each combat, heal 2. Again, completely unchanged from Spire 1. I do think in this game this is a little bit better. I think sustain in general, if you can get ahead of the curve and upgrade, is really nice. So if you get this, like, let's say from Niao, this is saving roughly somewhere like 10 to 12 HP in the act, maybe more depending on how many fights you go to. But that is still pretty significant, and it works immediately as soon as you get it. It's not a huge number, but it does add up over time, and that could mean the difference between getting an upgrade instead of a rest, which can snowball incredibly strongly. So I'm going to throw this into top of B. I might drop this into C. For that reason, I think I'm just not super happy to see this most of the time. Okay. Alphabetically, I think on this list that I have right now, Book of 5 Rings is next, so we're going to skip this. I don't even remember what this is called. But yeah, Book of 5 Rings. Every 5 cards you add to your deck heal 15 HP. This is sort of similar to Blood Vial, but it does require you to add cards to the deck. It notably can combine with things like transforms or things like the ancient boons that remove 5 cards and add them all back. That is quite powerful, but obviously the delay hurts it quite a bit. If you get this from Niao, you're pretty happy. If you get it later into the run, when your deck is a little bit more solidified and you're adding less cards, it may not ever do anything. But sustain is obviously still really strong. We're going to throw this into bottom of B for now. But yeah, still really, really strong relic. Okay. Bronze Scales is next. Start each combat with 3 thorns. Whenever the enemy attacks you, that will deal 3 damage back to them. Notably applies multiple times for multi-attacks. This is unchanged from Spire 1 as well. And is still quite strong. I do think in this game that having a lot of enemies where you can sort of sit around and block them while this goes in is very strong. Notably, the B guy in Act 2 gets completely destroyed by this. This is like 24 damage every time it attacks. But even against a lot of early game fights, chipping in for 3 is really powerful and puts you into a lot of thresholds that you may just not be expecting. I think it's not as breakable as these 2 in S tier here, but we will put this into A. This is something I'm always happy to get. It's pretty impactful in general, especially against something like Phantom, that you just need a lot of instances of chip damage to get in. Really, really strong relic, as long as you can sit around and block, which is a lot of decks in this game. Turn 1 seem worse here too. Like, I feel like more hallway swinging on turn 1 than giving you setup. Yeah, I think Anchor is a little bit better because of that. How is bag impacted by the difference in energy availability? Not really. I think most of the time, one, you have cards that you want to be playing to generate energy, and then you line up those cards with stuff. There's also things like Lantern that we'll get to, and Happy Flower, and a few other energy generating relics that combine nicely with that. But I think overall, still having card selection to be able to pick the most broken cards is still good, regardless of the lack of 4 energy. But there's even like Tez's thing that gives you 4 energy on turn 1 that's usually kind of bad for a lot of people. That makes it a lot better. There's also the retainable like kind of miracle that gives you energy that you can play really nicely on turn 1 with Bag of Prep. Just turn 1 is the most important turn in every combat basically, and I think that's, you know, incredibly good. Okay, next, Centennial Puzzle. The first time you lose HP each combat, draw 3 cards. This is proccable by your own life loss synergies like on Ironclad. That is very, very strong. Drawing 3 cards on turn 2 most of the time, like you intentionally play your power on turn 1 and you take some damage, and then turn 2 you draw a million cards and you solve the fight. Just really, really good relic. I think a lot of these relics that are really good in Spire 1 are just also good in Spire 2, so not much to talk about here. I think this is just very strong. Okay, Data Disc. This is defect only. Basically, the start of combat, gain 1 focus. Incredibly good. Defect in this game has less access to permanent focus sources. This is one of the very few. So if you have Data Disc, you're going to be outvaluing almost every single fight in the game. This is even better than it was in Spire 1, and it was an insane relic in Spire 1 as well. Seeing this at any point, it is worth paying money for, insanely valuable when you pick it up. Get in almost every deck, because almost every deck is going to be running some sort of Frost Orb or some sort of orb that benefits from this. But just an insane relic. Honestly, I think we can just throw it at the top of S tier for now. Obviously, it's defect only, so it's a little bit different. We're going to skip the character exclusive ones that I don't know off the top of my head what they're called, and move on to Festive Popper. This is a new relic. At the start of each combat, deal 9 to all enemies. Again, insanely front-loaded value. If you get this inside of Act 1, it is incredibly breakable. This makes a lot of fights way more trivial, saves HP everywhere. Just never going to be a bad relic. Obviously, in the end game, falls off quite hard, but as we said, early game relic power is definitely some of the best. And if you're clicking common relic from Niao, as you do pretty often, this is one of the better things to see. It's going to make a lot of your early fights really smooth. Think about this into like the Eel Elites in Act 1. It's just completely disgusting. Insane relic. Bottom of S, probably. Maybe we can throw that into top of A. We'll decide later. It's very strong. Okay. Gorget. At the start of combat, gain 4 plating. This is 4 block on turn 1, 3 block on turn 2, etc. Ticks down until it is completely gone. New relic. This is very comparable to Thread and Needle, which was a rare relic in Spire 1. And if you're familiar with that game, you realize how broken plated armor actually is. Front-loaded block that I don't have to spend energy on means I can spend energy on getting set up in the fight. So front-loaded block is going to be some of the best stuff you can possibly see from your relics. This is going straight into S as well. Insane relic. Early game, late game, whatever. Whenever you see this, it's going to save HP everywhere. And like I said earlier, when you can save HP from having relic support like this, it will snowball into upgrades, which snowballs into more HP. Just insane. Okay. Happy Flower. Every 3 turns, gain energy. This is completely unchanged from Slay the Spire 1. You can set this up throughout fights, so you can stall a fight to put this on 2, and then in the next fight, it will proc immediately on turn 1, something that works nicely with Bag of Prep, and you're likely to have this combo pretty frequently since there's not that many common relics, and you do see a lot of them throughout. So I think the prevalence, or the lack of energy relics in this game means Happy Flower is a lot better. They kind of balance things around not having as much energy, and Happy Flower is a really nice source to be able to kind of have big turns. I think this is also kind of just like top of A tier for me right now. It could go up. I don't want to just throw everything into S. So you might be realizing that a lot of relics are just kind of good in this game. I think there's not as many game-winning relics in general as there are in Spire 1, but the relic value overall is still pretty good. There's less complete duds. I do think they need dud relics just to sort of balance the game and make you brick sometimes, but overall I think the commons are pretty high value in general. As soon as I say that, we're going to Juzu Bracelets. Regular enemy combats are no longer encountered in question mark rooms. For those that are unaware, question mark rooms have a 10% chance to give you a fight. So 90% of the time, this is doing nothing. This is one of the worst things you can possibly see early, because sometimes you would rather have a fight in a question mark room anyways. So very often this relic will do essentially nothing, which is a complete brick. So yeah, straight into D. This is probably the worst common relic in the entire game. A worst relic overall. It was definitely in the contender spot for that in Spire 1, and I don't think it's any different here. Okay, Lantern. Start each combat with an additional energy. Like I said, combos very nicely with something like the Bag of Prep. Also lets you just kind of front load your block a little bit. If you're going to pay like 3 energy on your Echo Form or whatever, imagine there's any sort of setup. This basically just converts into a defend or something. So you can sort of think of this like mini Anchor, mini Gorget, something like that. The energy is pretty much always going to play now just because you have less runs where you have like 4 or 5 base energy. Oftentimes you're just on base 3 for the entire run, and this is always going to do something. I think it's not as good as Happy Flower, but still quite a solid relic. We'll put this a little bit below Thorns. Yeah, I'm just always very happy to see this. I know some people like didn't love it too much in Spire 1, and I think it's not an insane relic just because it does not provide value throughout the fights, and it's a little bit worse than the front-loaded block of something like Anchor or the front-loaded damage of Festive Popper, but it is quite solid. Okay, meal ticket. Whenever you enter a shop room, heal 15 HP. This is incredibly meaningful, especially for a lot of runs now that you're just sort of running into shops and removing. It lets you basically upgrade cards and spend all your money on removes without having to buy short-term value like potions. So this is essentially combining a rest with a shop floor. If there's like an act where you're running into 2 shops, this is just going to heal 30, which is 2 rests essentially. Really insane. Obviously can do nothing sometimes, so we cannot put this into something like S, but I think we'll throw this into bottom of A. It's just a lot of sustain. There's no guaranteed shop in Act 4 anymore to heal you to full, but I think that's not really that much of a consideration. Again, a lot of this is weighted towards early game problems, essentially. So anything that bails you out of an early game that's going to be rather rough otherwise is just going to get a relative boost. And again, you can notice that this is relatively top-ended here. There's a lot of very strong commons in this game, and I think that's not, you know, I shouldn't warp the tier list because of that. I think that they're just deserving of being rated highly. Okay. Next up is All These Smooth Stone. Start each combat with 1 dexterity. This basically just makes every block 1 more. In this game, that is incredibly good. There are a lot of more fights that you need to sit around and sort of block for a while, especially early game, and it just saves HP everywhere. The way Spire is designed is that when you play 3 energy worth of block cards, a lot of enemies will chip you for like 3 to 4 to 5 damage just because they want you to not be able to sit in a fight forever without some sort of scaling output. This very often is putting you over the threshold to, instead of taking like 2 damage when you try to play 2 defends, you now just take 0. So it's sort of saving every amount of chip in fights, assuming you don't brick your draws, but oftentimes this will just be plus 4, 5, 6 HP every single fight, which is really, really crazy. So obviously you still have to pay energy into your block cards. It's not quite as strong of a front-loaded block option as something like Anchor or Gorget, but can provide scaling output throughout fights. So we're going to throw this into maybe bottom of S, close to bottom of S. Still just really, really solid relic. I'm never unhappy to see this. It will make your early game so much easier. Okay, we will wait on this because it is not listed in the common relic on the wiki. And we actually, no, I lied. Okay, Pendulum. Whenever you shuffle your draw pile, draw a card. This is not doing a ton early. It usually doesn't do anything until turn 3 in the early game or so. Very, very breakable in the end game. So this is sort of a relic that is not super insane early, but gets better and better as the run goes on, basically. And especially if you're going for this sort of small deck thing where you shuffle very frequently and you're keeping your deck around like 15-ish real cards, this is going to be improving a lot of consistency. At the end of your draw cycle, you kind of know what's in your draw pile and you can plan around it. So when there's like 5, 6, 7 cards left in your draw pile, it's a lot easier to sort of know what your turn's going to look like because there's just less possibilities of what you draw into. For the opposite reason, when you shuffle your deck, it is the least consistent. You have no information of what's in your draw pile. You don't really know how to spend your energy on like a draw card or the previous turn or whatever. So having consistency in the shuffle is really good. And if you have anything that, let's say, draws 1 card for free, like a cantrip or something, maybe on silence, there's I'm blanking on the name of the card. It's in Spire 1. It'll come to me in a little bit. But yeah, it draws 1, blocks. If you have something like this, or you have it prepared or something, drawing 1 can increase consistency incredibly well. This is not as broken as some of these early game stuff just because it doesn't help you as much early. It's more of a breakable thing in endgame. Escape plan, yes, correct. Thank you. But it's still a really, really solid relic. I think we're going to throw this into like bottom of A-ish. Just doesn't do as much in the early game as you really want it to, but is a crazy, crazy relic. Okay, Permafrost. The first time you play a power each combat, gain 6 block. This is a really, really strong front-loaded block relic, which you'll notice there are a lot of those in this game. It is a little more awkward just because it doesn't always work on the turn you need it to. Let's say an enemy doesn't attack you turn 1 and you have a power you really want to play. You play it and it doesn't do anything. But the fact that it lets you deploy these powers without taking as much chip, and that's often what you're trying to do when you're deploying powers, is play a power to win a long fight. This stops you from taking chip as you get set up. So it is still a really, really strong relic. Can obviously do completely nothing. Let's say in Act 1, you have no powers. You see this first relic. It may not do anything. So we're going to put that in bottom of A just because of that. But for the most part, this is really sick. I think it's a great addition and gives you a little bit more control over when you can actually activate the block, which a lot of these relics don't. Anchor, notably one of them. But yeah, still really good. Okay, next up, Potion Belt. Unchanged from Spire 1. Upon pickup, gain 2 potion slots. So in Act 1, this is really not doing very much. It's very rare that you're able to hoard potions in a way that is going to really benefit you. In the endgame, however, this is incredibly good. I think there are less runs where I really need to hoard potions for endgame. But in general, even hoarding like 2 or 3 potions for some random elite to be able to kill it, like if you know that the hardest matchup for you is the bee or the hunter killer or whatever inside of Act 2, you can hoard 3 or 4 potions to throw at that one fight. And Spire 2 right now, the way it's balanced, feels like there's a lot of encounters that are disproportionately more difficult than others. So Potion Belt is letting you sort of negate that and balance the game a little bit more just by holding more resources. Potion slots are really, really strong. I think just because it doesn't help you as much in Act 1 and Act 3 seems a little bit easier, it's not as good as it is in Spire 1, but still a really strong relic. I would feel pretty bad putting this anywhere but A, I think. Okay. We can go ahead and do red skull because I know what it does. If you're under 50% HP, you gain 3 strength. So this is temporary. However, it can kind of let you skirt the line of always being under half HP and just sort of taking chip, which you're going to in every fight, and ending fights quicker. So it makes you stronger when you're lower and lets you kind of blow through Act 1 in a way that Clad normally can't. I think Clad is just a really, really rough Act 1 in general. So having something that helps you so much is just going to be really powerful. I think we obviously throw this into S. This is just a disgusting relic. It's only Clad, but yeah, crazy. All relics are broken. I think you will not be saying that when we get to uncommon and rare tiers, but commons are pretty good in this game. Okay. Regal Pillow. Whenever you rest, heal an additional 15 HP. I don't mind this relic. You're resting a lot more in this game than you are in others, or in Spire 1, so it can sort of buy you an upgrade. But if you have a fire, you may already be sort of safe. It's going to sustain a lot. 15 HP, again, is a really, really big number. But I think it is a little awkward based on how conditional it is. If you see this from Niao and you have like a force delete or something, it's not going to do anything for you to get through that fight. So it is a pretty decent relic just because of how often you're resting and maybe buys you an upgrade. But aside from that, it's not doing a ton. It's still obviously very strong. 15 HP for a rest is just quite good. We can throw this in like bottom of A. And yeah, you might see, again, there's not that many bad relics here. We might be getting to one of them though. Snecko Skull, I think this is unchanged from Spire 1, so I don't have to go looking for the notes, but if you would apply 1 poison, apply 1 more. This used to kind of work with Envenom to double the output, works with Fumes. That's one of the things that it's like quite good at doing, is just playing with Fumes, but I feel like in this game I don't often have poison cards really. I think Fumes is still really strong, but it's less ubiquitous than it was in Spire 1. There's more times where I just don't really need it as often, and especially like in Act 2 or 3, it's just not doing very much. You can see this inside of Act 1 and just have it be a complete brick because there's just nothing you want to play with it. Even like a Bouncing Flask, you know, is not clicked as often in this game. It doesn't really work with Deadly Poison Snakebite stuff, so it's really just a free upgrade on your Fumes. If you have Fumes, super sick relic. Other than that, kind of not that great. Can be really breakable. There are a lot of runs, and again, I'm going to feel like someone's going to come for me for putting this in C tier, but it most of the time is not doing anything with the current way that we're playing Silent, and will often not do very much. So unfortunately, yeah, just going to throw it into C. Okay, Strawberry. Upon pickup, raise your max HP by 7. This is obviously just a 7 HP heal. It does something, but it's not incredibly meaningful. If you compare this to something like Anchor or Gorget that can save this amount of HP in one fight, you'll probably realize that it's just not super great. It's immediate power. You can be really happy to see this and can bail you out of like a really nasty elite fight that's coming, but also think I'm just going to throw this and see. It just doesn't do a whole lot. Max HP is not as important in this game. I think we realized this when we realized that Tez's Flame card was just really, really strong. You lose 1 max HP every time you play it, but the fact that it wins the fight just never punishes you. In Spire 1, there were a lot more fights that kill you from full HP. Like if you walk into the heart and you don't do anything turn 2, you're looking at 67 damage. And that's kind of insane. So being big in that game was just more important because you need to be able to like full tank a hit if you brick. In this game, there's nothing that really does that. So compared to how broken a lot of these common relics are, this is just not really doing anything, unfortunately. Okay, Strike Dummy. Cards containing Strike deal 3 additional damage. Early game, this is an insane damage output boost. On Cloud is really, really solid, but later in the game can often do nothing. So depending on when you see this, you can either be very happy or very upset. Early game, I'm going to give it a little bit more weighting here since it is really strong to get you through that. So I will put this into A because this is essentially like a 50% damage increase to your starter deck, which is disgusting. It's oftentimes doesn't even fall off on something like Clad. So can really, really help you here. Okay, Tiny Mailbox. Whenever you rest, procure a random potion. This is a new relic. I think it's just fine. It feels incredibly average to me. It obviously can do something. Potions are just really, really strong in general. But I'm fairly confident that most of the time this is not doing very much in your runs. In early game, exactly, when you have an empty potion slot, like say after an elite and you rest because of it, it can maybe let you save like 5 to 10 HP in the next elite because of this potion. It's not amazing, but it does something. The fact that it can be a relic you get from Niao and then do literally nothing and you die in the elite that's incoming and you were hoping for like immediate power boost from your relic just makes it a little bit worse. I think we'll throw this into top of C tier, maybe B tier, top of C for now. Vajra, start each combat with 1 strength. Similarly to Strike Dummy, this is sort of just increasing your base damage from your deck as soon as you start the run, and this can be very significant. It makes multi-hit attacks a lot better, like kind of an upgrade for those. I don't think it's as good in this game as it was in Spire 1. That being said, it was an incredibly good relic in Spire 1 and still pretty breakable. It makes the damage thresholds just sort of fall together. Like this game is, or Spire in general, both games are attempting to be balanced by you barely having enough output or needing to play something to give you output to actually kill something. If you're just playing like your base deck, oftentimes you're going to take chip. They're sort of balancing the game around the fact that you need to add better cards to it. And this is essentially just making all your strikes better. It can also obviously scale into the game and do things with multi-hit stuff. So still a really strong relic. I think Aldi Smooth Stone being the most comparable thing to it is just better. But we'll throw it into A here. Just works really well. If you have this on Necrobinder, obviously, like, you're kind of sad. This doesn't actually work with Ostia attacks, so we'll make a notable exception for this being pretty bad on Necro, but even having strike damage be increased is still really solid. Okay, Venerable T-Set. Whenever you enter a rest site, start the next combat with an additional 2 energy. This helps you notably in boss fights the most. That's consistently going to be going off in boss fights. So that is something. I think it doesn't do as much as you want it to do. It's not incredibly consistent at doing anything, and oftentimes 2 energy is too much energy. You can only make use of like 1 of it or something. So overall, not as good as Lantern. Still does something, but I think we're just throwing this into top of C tier. It's okay. It can be breakable sometimes, but the fact that it doesn't do stuff in every single fight and it's kind of pathing reliance and map dependent makes it a little awkward. Okay, we've gotten to the bottom of the list here, so we're starting to get character-specific relics, but we'll do Whetstone first. Upon pickup, upgrade 2 random attacks. This you can kind of think of as being Strike Dummy in the early game. It's most of the time just going to hit 2 basics, which is not horrible, but obviously worse than Strike Dummy. It can really pop off. Like, there are times where this upgrades your Pommel Strike, and you're super happy. Overall, it's a medium damage boost that sometimes can do completely nothing. Sometimes in the end game, it's a little bit of a thing you're happier to see. It's basically Vajra, essentially. If you think about how many strikes you're playing in a deck cycle, and now you can just play the good ones. So it's a little bit easier to get damage out of it than Vajra, but Vajra has a higher ceiling, I would say. So we'll throw this into B. It's just an okay damage boost. Not a horrible relic, but just does something. If you get it from Niao, having 2 strikes be upgraded is still quite solid. Okay, Fencing Manual. At the start of combat, forge 10. This is Regent exclusive. But for Regent, this is basically saying start every fight with the blade in hand and have it deal 20, which is a retain attack. That is really good. Front loaded, it lets you kind of just have some other stuff to buff the forge, works well with your vulnerable. So in first cycle, you always have like 30 damage on command whenever you need it, because no matter when you draw your starter card, you're going to have that. That's quite strong. So I think we're just throwing this straight into S for Regents. I don't really know where. You can kind of ignore the existence of these for other characters, obviously, since they're 1 character exclusive, but we'll get to that later. Okay. Bone Flute. Necrobinder exclusive. Whenever Ostia attacks, gain 2 block. This works with Unleash in your base deck. Otherwise is not really proccing very frequently, unfortunately. So it's okay. It saves a little bit throughout the fight, but I don't think this is like an insanely breakable relic most of the time. It is pretty much 2 block a deck cycle in the early game, which is not awful, but it's like, okay. Makes some of the other cards more pickable. We'll do this in like bottom of A probably. War Paint. Upon pickup, upgrade 2 random skills. Unchanged from Spire 1. This is a lot better than Whetstone. So one thing is that skills usually have better upgrades than attacks. Usually you're getting some extra value like extra draw, or you're getting some sort of energy reduction or increased effect, more weakness, whatever. And also hitting defends with this. Again, we talked about how Oddly Smooth Stone sort of makes all these thresholds where you take chip and kind of not happen. 8-block defends fix that problem as well, and can also high roll. So I think this is decidedly just better than Whetstone, and early game is going to save you a lot of chip. So I will throw this in A. Let's go like below Potion Belt, maybe. I'm gonna like reorder this a little bit. I do like this relic a lot, but I think it's just not as important as it was, or as it is to have some early game power. It's doing something, but it's just not insane. Okay, that is the commons. We will aggregate this together in post, but let's go ahead and switch over to uncommons now. Akabeko. At the start of each combat, gain 8 vigor. This is a buff that stays on your character until you attack. With multi-attacks, this procs multiple times. So in Spire 1, something like Skewer, going with this can do a ton of damage. The ceiling is really high, while the floor is basically just 8 damage. I do think that this is hurt a lot by being uncommon. In the first game, this was something you could pick up early game for like 160 gold at the first store. You are not doing that in this game. Akabeko is like 230, 250 gold sometimes, which is way too much to afford. If you're walking into a store early with like 150 gold bonus and you have like 260, 270 gold or something, are you spending all of your money on Akabeko, or are you just buying like a potion and some cards and card removing? And I think that this is where we're going to start getting into the relics, I think, that are really hurt by having increased prices, and why stores feel kind of bad oftentimes. A lot of times in a store, I'm walking in to remove. And that wasn't really the case in Spire 1, especially not in the early game. Obviously, super breakable, but just does not really serve the same function as being a really strong early game option that you can get for cheap. You can't get it from Niao, I don't believe, because I think that's only common relics. So when it would be its absolute best, and when you can sort of build around it, and you can have it to help solve the early game stuff, it's just not there. So you're more likely to get this later into the run and not anytime early, just because you can't save from Niao. So for that reason, I think we're just going to throw it into B. You can get any relics from Niao, not from like the common thing, right? There's like a common relic option. Okay. Bag of Marbles. Unchanged from Spire 1. At the start of each combat, apply 1 vulnerable to all enemies. Well, I said unchanged, but the main change is that this is uncommon now instead of common. That is a big hit for the same reason. In early game, in Spire 1, you could kind of buy this from the store for 150, 160, whatever. And now that is just not the case. Am I really going to pay 250 gold to have this? I'm not super happy. I kind of want my uncommons to do a little bit more in the early game if I have to pay that much money for them, and I want them definitely to do more stuff in the end game as well. It's artifact strip to be able to apply weakness or something later. That's like one thing, and obviously can do really strong stuff, but I think this is like decidedly around where Akabeko is. I might honestly put these both in C. Just them being so expensive, it just does not feel worth it most of the time. Bellows. The first hand you draw each combat is upgraded. This is pretty cool as something like Bag of Prep, which you will have very frequently. Also works with some of the things from Ancients. There's one Ancient that gives you like 2 energy retain, and that will just upgrade. But this is pretty solid most of the time, especially early game. Upgrading your blocks and strikes in a fight, that's still really good. You're going to get a lot of damage output throughout the fight just from having a couple of cards be green, which upgrades in this game are pretty hard to come by. So getting this early and it can hit some of the really good stuff in your deck, I think it's just straight into A. We may consider S. Okay, bowler hat. Uncommon, gain 20% additional gold. This works from events, but overall, I think this is kind of just worse than the common that gives you like 10 gold per fight, because those like regular fights are giving you 7, 8, 9, 10 gold most of the time. This is just not doing that much. It's giving you like 2 gold for those fights, and in elites, it's giving you like 6. It's just straight up worse. You can obviously get more gold and do some more stuff, but most of the time I don't feel like I'm like really that poor in this game. Like, I'm just sort of walking into shops and removing, and this doesn't feel like a break point. I would much rather have a lot of the other options on this list. So I think we'll just throw this straight into D. I think it's just really not great. Maybe we'll change that as more context arrives here, but yeah, don't feel too great. Okay, Candelabra. At the start of your second turn, gain 2 energy. This is pretty comparable to Lantern. They just sort of made a series of them. So there's one for turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Very similar to the boat block relics. I think this thing is fine. I'm not super excited to see it, especially early. I don't think 5 energy very often is going to play on turn 2. It can, and it gets like okay scaling as the game goes on, but oftentimes I want more output on turn 1. The fact that you get an extra energy for delaying that effect to turn 2 is quite nice, but it's not an insane relic, just a little bit above average probably. I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw this into B. I would rather, I think, have something like Horncleat, which is on this list, and maybe I'll just skip to it right now, which says at the start of your turn, gain 14 block on the second turn. That is basically saying I don't have to draw into 14 energy worth of block cards, right? Or sorry, 14 block worth of energy. That makes more sense. I don't have to draw into it. I don't have to play it. It's way more consistent at just doing the thing. So Candelabra may convert to some other stuff, but I oftentimes am going to need to play block on turn 2 anyways. And now I have to draw into it. And I may just brick and not get anything. So this is not really covering you in a bad draw scenario. So I think it's just B. It's got like a okay synergy or whatever with a few other things in the game, but like puzzle or whatever. But for the most part, like, I'll just go ahead and throw Horncleat into S. I think the comparison between these two things is pretty fair here. Basically, you can just say that the Candelabra converts to 2 cards that both say block 7 for 1 energy on them, and you'll understand why the Horncleat's just going to be better, right? Like, I don't want to have to actually draw those cards. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Eternal Feather, uncommon. For every 5 cards in your deck, heal 3 HP when you enter a rest site. Early game, this is kind of healing for like 9 to 12 for the most part. I think overall, this lets you upgrade more frequently. It's basically a pillow that you don't have to actually rest to get value out of. So can sort of do a similar function. I don't think it's like insane at all, but sustain in this game is very good. It's not going to go into S. I think we're just going to throw it into A. Very often does something and scales throughout the run. Obviously, if your deck is going like 30 cards or something, this is going to get better and better. But yeah, it's at its worst early game, but getting a 9 heal when you walk into a fire in early game is still going to be really, really good. We'll throw it beneath here at the bottom of A for now. Okay, let's go Gremlin Horn. Whenever an enemy dies, gain energy, draw 1 card. There's a lot more AoE fights in this game. And I think Gremlin Horn was pretty good in the first game, and I don't think that's really changed. There's stuff that summons not as frequently as like Gremlin Leader or something, but still a lot of fights where having 1 extra draw and 1 extra energy can really help you. I think I'll go ahead and throw this into A. Again, it's something that, like, am I going to buy it from a shop? Probably not. That's where a lot of these uncommons are sort of falling for me right now, is that I'm not willing to spend that much money to pay for them. But if I see them in a chest or something, I'm going to be pretty okay with it. Okay. Let's skip over the character exclusive ones for now. Joss Paper. Every 5 times you exhaust a card, draw 1 card. So this can be set up similarly to something like Happy Flower, where you leave this on 4 and then you walk into the next fight and immediately get to draw or something. So that is something that can be very, very good. However, there's a lot of times where this is doing literally nothing, especially early game. So on something like Ironclad, very breakable, can just draw 2 cards for you playing Fiendfire or something, or playing Stoke. But I don't really think on the other characters it's doing as much. On Necro, where you're spamming souls or something, can draw. There's obviously a lot of times where it can be really strong, but for most of the characters, it's just not doing that much. I think on Defect and like Silent, it's probably doing nothing for you. Regents as well. You basically have Ascender's Bane, and that's what it's going to be doing. But if you see this early, it's not broken enough that I'm going to really build around it, but it's okay. I think we'll throw this right into like C average tier. Can be very breakable, but a lot of characters, this is just a do nothing relic, and I really care about the early game insanely more than Spire 1. Okay, Kusarigama. Every time you play 3 attacks in 1 turn, deals 6 damage to a random enemy. This is kind of awkward. I feel like 3 attacks just doesn't happen very often, and you can't target the damage. 6 is just not that big of a payoff. It does like something, but really is just not going to proc very often. If you have like shivs or something, maybe, but again, shivs are just not that common in this game. You just don't end up taking them very often. So I think we're going to throw this like bottom of C. Every time I've had this, it doesn't feel like it does anything. It's obviously some damage output, but just really not great. Okay. Letter Opener. Unchanged from Spire 1. Every time you play 3 skills in a single turn, deal 5 damage to all enemies. This is pretty good. Notably, this is something that while you're just sitting there blocking, gives you actual output. So normally if you play 3 defense in a turn, you get nothing. This lets you not feel so bad about doing that. So anything that allows you to block and deal damage at the same time is going to be pretty good in my book. I think we throw this into A. It just is good at consistently proc, gets really breakable, so it can be an insane amount of damage for something like Silent that's just playing like prepared into, you know, acros or whatever. And Sly also operates a lot better with this as well. So yeah, if you compare these 2 relics, just not comparable at all. Kusarigama and Letter Opener, just, this is AoE and easier to proc than this. So I just don't understand why this exists in the game. It felt like they wanted to make it something similar, but you might as well just make it do AoE. That would be a lot better of a relic and still feel kind of fair to me. Okay, Lucky Fish. Whenever you add a card to your deck, gain 15 gold. This is just kind of buff Ceramic Fish. Ceramic Fish in the game, in the first game, gave you 9 gold every time you added a card to the deck. This is giving you 15. I think it's a bit better. It's not going to be like insanely breakable. Like P-Box is way less common in this game, and that was the main way that Fish got really good in Spire 1. So Transforms can make this kind of good. Gold just feels worse to me. There's just less things I want to spend it on. There's less like run winning relics, and things are more expensive overall. So it really just ends up just being removes. But if I am adding a bunch of cards to my deck to gain gold, then I'm probably not having a deck where removes matter that much. It's a little awkward. Yeah, I can discount shop cards as well. It can give you like quite a bit of gold throughout a run, and you get less gold overall from stuff like fights. So it's a little bit better. I think we're going to throw it below Akabeko. It's just okay. It does something. Again, a lot of these are hurt by their rarity. If you compare this to the common relic placements, you'll see the lopsidedness is starting to turn towards the bottom here, and that's for good reason. The expensiveness of these relics is just not helping them at all. Okay, Mercury Hourglass. At the start of your turn, deal 3 damage to all enemies. This is unchanged from Spire 1. This in the early game, insane. This is a ton of output. I have to do nothing for this to just deal constant AoE damage. Again, something that allows me to just sit there and block and deal AoE is crazy. This AoE works so much better than the first game. You might think that this number is nothing, but how long are you sitting in like the eel fight? How long are you sitting in the frog fight and inside of Act 1? This is just solving so many fights, and it's not draw order reliant. It doesn't require you to line up anything like 3 skills to do this. It is insane, just disgusting. Against Vantum as well, is going to proc once a turn, obviously, to get rid of his kind of damage reduction and stuff. So crazy. Okay, Miniature Cannon. Upgraded attacks deal 3 additional damage. This is one of my like favorite relics, I think, that got added into the game. I've had a couple of runs where there's just break some cards that have small numbers that hit multiple times. So it can be really breakable. And obviously, like, any upgraded attack doing 3 more is just an extra 3 damage upgrade. That's just really solid. However, I think it's going to be hurt a little bit just by the fact that I don't get upgrades as much in this game. So this might only be 3 damage a deck cycle, which is not amazing. The ceiling is obviously crazy, and I think it's a lot more breakable than something like Akabeko, because any card that you'd want to put Akabeko on, now you just upgrade and you kind of have a mini version of it. But it doesn't feel like you really get to abuse it in a lot of runs. If you see this early, you're just not going to be super happy unless you've already got upgrades, in which case, like, you're probably already doing okay. Also can't say it from Niao, so can't like plan your pathing around it or something. And I'm kind of ignoring the large capsule or whatever I think is the other way that you get relics, because of the fact that you just don't click it. I never click the option after a couple times doing it and realizing the base strikes and defense are just so bad. So yeah, I can't get it from Niao basically in my head. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this in B tier. It's situational, can have a really high ceiling, but in the average run is not doing that much. Okay, nunchucks. Every time you play 10 attacks, gain energy. Again, a relic you can set up between fights. Most of the time, this is about 1 energy per fight. Can be more breakable if you have something like a Blade Dance, but unfortunately, that's exhausting now. So it's decent. I don't think it's like an incredibly run-winning relic at all. It never was that in Spire 1 either. But having extra energy in this game is pretty nice. So I think this just goes straight into B tier. It's got a little bit more control than like the candle, but it's not going to be insanely breakable in the way that some of these other relics are. Okay, Orichalcum. If you end your turn without any block, gain 6 block. This is an insane relic to see early game. Just absolutely disgusting. But unfortunately, you can no longer get it from Niao, which is something that you would get in the previous game. So it definitely hurt by its rarity. You can no longer walk into the store and buy it for 160, which is so sad. I really do think that this relic is worth paying the money for even in this game, but it feels so much worse. We'll go ahead and throw this into A. It's definitely not an S anymore, how it would have been in Spire 1, but yeah, the bump down on the rarity, or I guess the bump up on the rarity, really hurts it. But oftentimes this allows you to just push damage and avoid taking a lot of chip, because on a lot of fights, you're going to have to just be like trading and playing attacks anyways to push damage. And this sort of also protects you from like bad draw orders where you just don't draw any block. Or you can now decide in a hand of like 1 defend 4 attacks to just play your attacks, and it's going to be better. So new players often forget about this. Just try to remember, if you have this thing, like, don't play defend. It's just worse and you wasted energy. Okay, Ornamental Fan. Every time you play 3 attacks in a single turn, gain 4 block. This is just kind of much better than Kusarigama. I don't think it's as crazy. Like, on Silence with, like, Blade Dance or whatever in the first game, this was really, really good. It doesn't happen as often. I think on Clad, this is probably at its best and can do stuff on Regents, but oftentimes is not going to really proc very often. This is sort of just, like, higher ceiling Orichalcum that can also help you a little bit. Playing 3 attacks just doesn't happen on like something like Necrobinder, really. So certain characters, you're not getting a whole lot of value out of this. I think we will put this into top of B. Okay, Pantograph. At the start of each boss combat, heal 25 HP. In the previous game, this would really help you because it sort of tops you off going into the heart. In the boss gauntlet, this notably is 50 health, which is crazy. And basically gets you an upgrade at the end of each act, essentially. Really, really solid relic. Obviously does nothing to keep you alive inside of the act, and I can almost never justify spending money on it. But if you see this like towards the end of the act, you're just going to be happy knowing that you can upgrade at the end of it. So I think let's throw this at like top of A. It's not doing as much as these relics because of the immediate power it's not giving you. It's not doing anything, but it will over time, and that is kind of important. Okay, Parrying Shield. If you end a turn with at least 10 block, deal 6 damage to a random enemy. This is like Kusarigama, but just like weird. You basically have to play like 2-3 defends to activate this, or more block cards. The random damage is just so awkward. It feels like it needs to be AoE to be anything really worth. Like, I'm never gonna buy this ever. Easier to do than this thing, so we'll throw it like here probably. And honestly, maybe I'll like up these things. It feels a little weird to see them this low. These just feel a lot worse. But yeah, just not very good. I don't know what else to say. Just 6 damage that I can't target is like not enough output really, and I have to do something that's like maybe not always happening. Just awkward. In the early game, you can play like defends and single target fights and block or whatever, but maybe we'll up it a little bit. It's definitely not as bad as this, but I don't really love this thing. Okay. Pair. Upon pickup, raise your max HP by 10. This is essentially just, again, Strawberry, just a little bit better. I don't love this thing. Like, again, there's a lot of relics I'm more happy to see and will save me more HP, but it's not, like, horrible to get in the early game. Again, like, 10 HP is, like, fine. It's whatever. Pretty, like, average relic. Like, I think I'm just going to throw this into, like, bottom of B. Being big, we already went over, it was just not as good as in the previous game, but it does maybe buy you an upgrade, and that's the real value out of it. I just can't justify ever spending money on this most of the time. Pen Nib. Every 10th attack you play deals double damage. This is unchanged from Spire 1, except it is now uncommon instead of common, which again hurts it. Another relic that you could walk into a shop in Act 1 and buy in the previous game that you no longer really want to do. It's pretty unfortunate. Getting it from now, you can do more stuff with it. Maybe you can set up like your bludgeon to deal double and like one-shot a fight or something. One-shot something with Fiend Fire. It just doesn't happen as often in this game because it's uncommon. So I think that really, really hurts it. I do think it's still better than a lot of these other relics. Like maybe you put it around Fan. That feels really comparable, but just having a little bit of front load you can set up. If you have like a backstab on Silent, then obviously doubling your backstab damage is going to be really sick. But again, uncommon, just hurts it a lot. Okay, Petrified Toad, a new relic. At the start of each combat, procure a rock potion shaped rock. I don't know. This is basically a slightly worse fire pot. It deals 15 damage targeted, which if you don't have potions in the early game is basically like get a fire pot. It's really strong in the early game. If you have potion belt, which you will a lot, it's going to do a lot for you. I think this is quite strong, to be honest. In the early game, when you're really getting owned, like, this is saving a million HP. It's really solid. I think this is just going into A here. Maybe not quite letter opener, but it's just so strong early game that it's just going to carry you. You can even just, like, save 2 rocks, save 3 rocks if you have potion belt or something. And, like, yeah, the second it becomes irrelevant when you can hoard potions, like, if you're already winning, then great, you don't need the thing. If you can already hoard pots, then you don't need it. But if you're throwing pots everywhere trying to stay alive, this thing keeps you alive throughout early game. It's really, really good. Planosphere. Whenever you enter a question mark room, heal 4 HP. This is kind of weird. It's essentially like Eternal Feather, just a little bit more strange. Like, it's pretty comparable, but I think it procs on often a bit less. Can bail you out randomly, but it's pretty mid. Again, sustain is like good in the game, but the number is just not that high, and I don't often want to be just running full into question marks if I'm trying to get value out of the act. I just don't love it, but it will result in an amount of HP over the run that's like fine. I think we just like throw it into B somewhere. I don't know. Okay. Red Mask. At the start of each combat, apply 1 weak to all enemies. Unchanged from Spire 1. Really solid relic. Front-loaded block, scales throughout the game. As enemies get stronger and hit you for more and more, this just blocks more and more. So it's kind of like scaling Anchor that can also strip artifact to allow you to apply your debuffs. I think this is just going into A tier pretty easily. Just saves HP throughout the run everywhere. You can even like chain weak from neutralize on turn 1 into turn 2. That basically bridges some bad draw orders on characters that have built-in weak or have weak in their other cards. Just a godsend for a lot of characters and will save HP everywhere. Reptile Trinket. Whenever you use a potion, gain 3 strength this turn. This thing freaking sucks. Most of the time it's doing nothing. If I'm already reaching for my potion, it's basically like saying you get a mini flex pot. But like, okay, if I don't have a potion, it's doing literally nothing. And if that potion is not going to also benefit from giving me strength, then like, what is this doing? Horrible, horrible relic. It's incredibly situational. Most of the time I'm just getting no value out of it. If I am getting value, I don't know, I'm already in a position where I'm glugging my pot, so I'm kind of sad about it already. It doesn't save you from having to use your resources already, which is just not great. Okay, Ribble Basin. If you do not play any attacks during turn, gain 4 block. This is really good on some characters and not so good on others. On something like Necrobinder, where you really want to store block, this thing is crazy. It does allow you to sort of play powers and just set up on turns, and 4 block is just not nothing. I think we talked about Gorge It before. 4 block is really solid. This feels something very similar to it. I think we just go ahead and throw this into A somewhere. Yeah, insane. You'll notice a lot of the relics that just help you block or help you get set up are going to be really, really strong, or if they solve output for you, just quite good. Sparkling Rouge. At the start of their 3rd turn, gain 1 strength and 1 dex. This comes online way too late for like almost every fight. In a boss, it's going to provide you a little bit of scaling, but just not enough. Like as an uncommon, like I really want something to do something in turn 1, 2 for the most part. That's like the most important turns. I can solve scaling by playing cards, and I don't think 1 strength is really solving scaling for you. Like any long fight, it's helping obviously, but front load is a much bigger problem than scaling in this game in general. So I think we just throw this into like bottom of C. It's not reptile tier, and it's probably better than like the stupid scythe, but just not amazing at all. Stonecracker. At the start of boss combats, upgrade 3 random cards in your draw pile for the rest of combat. I don't love this thing. I think there's so many other relics that are just going to do so much more for you. You have no control over what this is going to hit. It can hit something that's really helpful for you. Also, the fact that it only works in boss fights is just so tragic. This could really do this every fight and be fine, I think. For some reason, it just doesn't. So probably just going into C, bottom of C, it's really, really sad. Yeah, Elites is like, yeah, if it works for Elites as well, it definitely gets quite a solid bump up, but still not an insane relic by any means either. And you'll see this is just looking a lot more different from the common relics here. Okay. Tooting Fork. New relic. Every time you play 10 skills, gain 7 block. Crazy, crazy relic. I'm gonna throw this into S. You can set this up, and essentially what this is I block 7 turn 1 of every fight. And it blocks throughout the fight as well. Skills are really easy to spam. It's the most spammable type of card. Like Prepared, whatever, Sly. Like, it's just blocking a million. This thing is so strong. I think these relics that, if you can set them up, maybe like newer players kind of don't see the value in them. But if you take your time to actually set them up throughout combats, you'll realize how much this is actually doing. This really is just saving 7 HP at least every fight, if not more. Just crazy, crazy good relic. Vambrace. The first time you gain block from a card each combat, double the amount gained. I do like this quite a bit. Again, front-loaded block. Can be quite awkward if your block comes stapled alongside something else that you want to play. But for the most part, you can hold this until the turn that you're going to need a lot of output. If not, it kind of converts into damage. Like if you have 2 defense in your hand, now you only need to play 1, you just play a strike instead. And that's like the worst case scenario. But can block a lot. Like if you have a huge chunky block card, if you have like a reflect in your hand, it's just going to be really good and saves every single combat. So I think we just throw this into maybe top of A. It's not Tuning Fork levels of good, but it is quite solid. Okay, let's go ahead and go to character specific stuff now. Paper Frog is Ironclad only. Enemies with vulnerable take 75% more damage rather than 50. This is essentially like the power now that gives you extra amp on Vuln. It is notably just harder to get Vuln in this game. I've been noticing like it's harder to upgrade Uppercut. Shockwave's not in the game. There is an uncommon block card that gives Vuln now, which is really good. And obviously this can be a really big damage increase for you early game. But I think it's just slightly worse than it was in the previous game. Obviously is like good output in bosses and such. So we'll throw it in like bottom of A maybe. Still a really solid relic. I don't want people thinking that I don't like it, but yeah, not as insane. Okay, Self-Forming Clay. Whenever you lose HP in combat, gain 3 block next turn. Okay, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. That's just going straight into S tier. This is unchanged based on the last game, but this works with self-harm stuff as well. So if you're playing your Bloodletting, you're just converting your Bloodletting into block next turn. Anything that's chipping you for damage is also going to make you block a million the turn after. It's just a completely disgusting relic. Like, so many ways to lose life on this character. Cloud has such a hard time blocking. You're just going to take chip everywhere. If you're taking chip, can save 3, 6, 9, whatever amount of HP the next turn as well. And just keep snowballing. Like, you can purposely take 1, purposely take 2, just because you know that you're going to save more next turn. Cloud has a really hard time blocking in this game. And I think this is just one of those things that's just going to save so much HP throughout the run. Disgusting, disgusting relic. Tingsha, whenever you discard a card during your turn, deal 3 damage to a random enemy for each card discarded. This was mostly breakable with Count Gamble. Count Gamble now has been made to exhaust, and that is not as good as it once was. It already was not the most broken thing for Silent to have in the first game, and it's definitely not the most broken thing here either. The rarity got bumped down from rare to uncommon, so you see it more often, but it is just sort of chipping in here and there. Prepared will do like 6 randomly. You're just going to trigger this thing by doing what Silent already wants to do, so you're kind of just getting incidental damage. Can obviously have runs where it doesn't do anything, so I think we're going to throw this in like bottom of A somewhere. But overall, it's just a lot of output. Silent's early game is strong, but obviously any help you can get is still good, and notably really good into Phantom, just kind of pinging away the damage reduction stuff. Okay, Twisted Funnel. At the start of each combat, apply 4 poison to all enemies. Silent only. This is really, really strong. I know people are going to be like, oh, you say poison's bad. But poison in a relic, really, you can just read this as deal 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 damage, which is a lot. So we basically get 10 damage for free. Also combos with other things. If you have a Fumes, you can sort of get that stacked already. It lets you strip artifacts for weak. Really, really solid damage output relic, similar to Hourglass, really, which is going into S tier. So that's really solid. We're gonna go ahead and throw this into top of A, I think. This is no longer shop only, which is how it was seen before, and you still bought it very often. But now this sort of just gets into the relic bar randomly, and that's so much output. Galactic Dust. For every 10 stars, gain 10 block, regent only. This thing, again, similar to Tuning Fork, is cracked. You're going to spend 10 stars very often, very easily. Can set it up between fights, so on turn 1, this can very often just be Anchor, and renewable Anchor at that. Crazy, crazy relic. Obviously, you have to do a little bit of work for it. It doesn't work in every single deck super easily, but if you're just setting it up once every fight, 10 block once a fight is gross. Very, very disgusting. Regolite. Whenever you create a colorless card, gain 2 block, regent only. You're doing this way less than using stars. There's a couple of things that just like, I don't know, Charge, for example, that's just going to block 4 now because it makes 2 minion strikes or whatever. And the common card that converts a thing in your hand into a colorless card that exhausts. So it can make some things just block a little bit, but just not nearly as breakable as this. I think we'll go ahead and throw this into like B tier. It's probably just worse than Fan most of the time. Okay, Book Repair Knife. Necrobinder exclusive. Whenever a non-minion enemy dies to Doom, heal 3 HP. You are killing things with Doom very frequently on Necro. Very. That is really disgusting. In an AoE fight, if you kill like 3 or 4 enemies, boom, heal 9, heal 12. Even if you only do that once or twice an act, that is a pantograph. So this is way more breakable than that and starts working immediately, which is crazy. If every fight you're just healing 3, disgusting, straight into S. Don't have to talk very much about that, I don't think. A lot of these character exclusive relics are just really busted, and I'm glad that they have some stuff going for them that are really strong. That's definitely just one of them. Funerary Mask. At the start of each combat, add 3 souls into your draw pile. Only Necro. Adding 3 cards that say draw 2 on them into your draw pile is really strong. This can also combo with other things that interact with souls. Just gets you through your deck faster. I believe that you can draw these on turn 1 as well. I think that is one of the main changes from this game, is something opposed to Inspire 1, where something like this would not work until after turn 1. So you can just make your turn 1 better, make your turn 2 better, make every cycle better. That is really strong. I'm gonna put this a little bit below the Book Repair Knife, but yeah, still disgusting relic. Okay, gold-plated cables. Your rightmost orb triggers its passive an additional time. This most of the time, I mean, it's very flexible, but really is like 2 extra block a turn and can scale your Dark Orb up. It's not as good as it was in Spire 1 because temp focus is just kind of not as good as permanent focus. But if you do have the ability to increase focus at all, even temp focus, it's still basically just an extra orb slot. So this is very, very, very strong still, even after I just said how it's not as good as Inspire 1. But yeah, it's just an extra orb slot, and basically it means that if you only play, like, let's say 1 Frost Orb in the fight, you just have 2. You're just doing basically your setup faster, and lets you do some really fun things with something like a Dark Orb, maybe a Glass Orb or whatever. It can just make your output really, really high. So again, just S tier. A lot of these character-specific relics just straight into very good of a character. Symbiotic Virus. At the start of each combat, channel 1 Dark. Notably, you do not have swap in this game, so you do not lose your cracked core, so you always have the Lightning Orb, which gets in the way of this thing. But I still think having 1 Dark makes a lot of the early fights so much easier. You can't really do recursion stuff in this game because it's obviously not in the game. But keeping your Dark Orb around at all, making it be like dual casted at 18, that's 36 damage. Crazy. Just disgusting amount of damage. Makes early fights so easy. Again, this is another relic that you can really think of this as I get to block for full throughout the fight and still progress it. So if I'm able to just sit around and block, the Dark Orb is going to be scaling for me, and I'm getting 12 damage a turn because I'm going to plan on dual casting it. That is really, really good. So we'll throw this very high up. Okay, so that is it for the uncommons. Again, we'll aggregate this at the end, but let's go ahead and move on to rares. For rares, I'm going to be a little bit critical, I think, just based off how expensive they are and how often you see them, which is a lot less than the other ones. So they kind of need to pull more weight. So if you are surprised by anything here, it's probably the fact that it's rare. It needs to be doing a lot. Okay. Art of War. If you do not play any attacks during your turn, gain an additional energy next turn. This was common in Spire 1 and is now rare. So a huge knock to this thing. And I think part of this was that they expected you to sort of have more energy problems and have energy be more valuable. I just don't think this really landed. By the time you see this, like, it's not very exciting most of the time. Having Art of War in the deck early means you can sort of play around it and capitalize on the energy more. Having it in the rare slot just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It can do stuff and lets you have a good turn, which is something that is really important. Like, if I'm able to sort of just like sit around and play like Equilibrium or something, then Art of War can do something. But Art of War is really at its best when you have Retain and Block, and you have like 1 turn where you just block, and then the next turn you sort of go in. On Regen, you already have a card that does that without the stipulation of not being able to play attacks. So I think the fact that this is rare now and it's so expensive, it's something I'm never buying, kind of, we just put it into like B tier. It was a really good common relic. Maybe it goes into C, but it's just not at the level of what a rare should be doing and what some of these relics also do. But yeah, on Necro, you can play Doom and Block. But again, the fact that it's rare and you just don't see it that often, and on 1 character, it's really good, just doesn't work that much. I think on Defect, this is also quite solid as well. So character specific wise, this is much better. Like, significantly better, probably A tier on those 2 characters. On the others, it's just not doing very much. I think maybe we can put it into low B based on that. It makes the weighting a little bit weird. Okay. Beating Remnant. You cannot lose more than 20 HP in a single turn. There's less stuff that hits you for like 60 or 70 in this game. So oftentimes I don't really feel like I am just losing 20 plus HP in a turn. I don't know if anyone has had other experiences with this, but I most of the time just don't feel like this does anything. It can maybe save me HP of having to like block 10 or something against like a hit that's like 30 or 40. But I'm not trying to really face tank 20 in this game very often. Against the Mecha Knight, yeah, that's like the one time it's done anything for me as well. But it's kind of strange. Yeah, Cloud Infinites with Bloodletting, I guess. That's a good point. But for the most part, it doesn't feel like an insane relic. Yeah, most of the time you're bleeding because you can't keep up output-wise against the fight overall, and not just a one turn you die. As a rare, just does not seem impactful enough. Okay, Captain's Wheel. At the start of your third turn, gain 18 block. This is unchanged from Spire 1. I think we're going to throw this into A tier. It being later and on turn 3 is a lot worse than the other boat relics. Turn 1 and 2 are just usually more important. Also, the number is bigger to compensate, but yeah, as a rare, it just doesn't feel like proportionally it really catches up to those relics to deserve the S tier spot. 18 block on turn 3 is still really good. Okay, don't get me wrong, but it's not as insane as the other ones. Okay, Chandelier to complete our Pokemon of Lantern, whatever things. At the start of your third turn, gain 3 energy. For the same reason why I feel like you float 2 energy on turn 2 very often, floating energy on turn 3 is going to happen more often, and it's even worse than the other ones. I don't feel like very often you are going to want to spend a bunch of energy on turn 3 in particular. You'd rather have turn 1 or 2, a lot more relics interact with those more nicely, and you really want to play your powers early on in the fight, not later on in the fight. So it does let you have like kind of a bigger pop-off turn, but again, I think as a rare, it's just not doing enough. I think we're throwing this into C. Okay, Cloak Clasp. At the end of your turn, gain 1 block for each card in your hand. This was Watcher exclusive in the first game, and is no longer Watcher exclusive in this game. Crazy relic. S tier. This thing will block a million throughout a run. If you're playing Necro or something where you're just constantly drawing up your full hand with souls or something, it's obviously just blocking 10 a turn or something very comparable. That is the ceiling. Obviously 10 per turn is the ceiling. But even in the case of early game where let's say you play like Bash Strike or Bash Defend, it's just blocking 3 a turn. And it scales with draw. If you're playing any Burning Pact, anything like a Battle Trance, any Acro, whatever, there's so many times where this every turn is just blocking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like somewhere in this ballpark most of the time. If it's not, you played your whole hand, so congrats, you probably did something pretty good with that. It's just gonna save so much HP. This is basically Thread and Needle, basically Gorget, whatever, but Gorget's an insane as a common relic. This is insane as a rare. Even like just having this effect is so strong, and I cannot stress that enough. Okay, Frozen Egg. Whenever you add powers into your deck, upgrade it. So this really has the problem of you pick it up and you don't see powers ever. It can obviously be really strong, but in the average experience of getting this in Act 1, you probably see like 1 to 2 powers. Maybe they're not something you want, but it's just not really going to do very much for you immediately, which again, in a relic, I kind of want that. I kind of want something that when I kill an elite, I stabilize and I can sort of snowball and bounce back up. This is a delayed snowball that maybe doesn't even snowball at all. So I think we're going to throw this into B tier as a rare. It just doesn't feel as good as it did in the previous game as an uncommon. You're never really going to pay for this and just like buy the power pile or something. That was a thing that maybe you did in the previous game. It just doesn't happen as much here. I have not really had that occur. So can be really good. In a lot of cases is literally nothing. So before anyone complains about this relic like popping off for them, this is gonna be the case for most relics. They can pop off, but we're looking at like average case and what it does for you in most runs. And if you're not happy to see it in every run, then well, it's kind of sad. Okay, Gambling Chip. At the start of each combat, discard any number of cards and draw that many. Easy S tier. That's probably one of the best relics in the game. This combos with Bag of Prep. You can look at 14 cards from your deck potentially. Turn 1 again is the most important turn. Being able to hand select what your turn 1 is or dig 5 cards deeper to your powers is insane. On Silent, this is already drawing 14 basically, or drawing 7, but yeah, works with Silent Starter Relic. Just disgusting relic. Like absolutely insane. If you don't see the value in this thing, next time you play with it, just pretend it doesn't exist and then like look at what it's actually doing for you and just think about how much HP it's saving. It's so much. It also just gets you set up so fast. Crazy relic. Game Piece. Whenever you play a power, draw 1 card. This again can do nothing. Powers are the rarest kind of card that you're going to have, so oftentimes it's not going to do that much and does not get super broken for the most part. If you have like a creative AI where you're just printing powers on defect, could be really cool. It does help you get through your deck a little bit, but oftentimes powers are expensive. like 2-3 energy levels of expensive. It's very rare, few and far between that powers are like 0 or 1. So drawing when you're planning on sort of playing your power and maybe just blocking is less good. But a relic that says draw on it, I don't think I could really put any lower than like B tier. We can go ahead and just sort of throw this into B. Again, sometimes does nothing. The ceiling on this thing is not insane. It is good, but the floor is pretty low. Like, obviously, you can just pick it up and it just does nothing for you. Okay, Girya, you can now gain strength at rest sites 3 times max. In the first game, this was like still kind of a bad relic, but could do something. In this game, man, it's so hard to do anything but rest at a fire. I'll say it. Like, the idea is that you lift and it snowballs and you save HP over the course of a run, but it's so hard to sack this thing. And the fact that it literally does nothing on pickup is so sad. You're basically just trading your rest or an upgrade for Girya for 1 strength. It's like a delayed Vajra with a higher ceiling. It just feels so awful. I think we're going to throw this into bottom of C, maybe even D. There's a lot of characters where it just doesn't do anything either, and even Ironclad benefits less from strength. I think probably the character that likes this the most is like Silent or Regent. It doesn't feel like I ever want to use this. Most of the time it's just a completely dead relic, unfortunately. Okay, Ice Cream. Energy is now conserved between turns. If you don't know what that means, basically if you end your turn with 2 energy and next turn you were supposed to have 3, congrats, you now have 5. That's basically how it works. It lets you do some crazy stuff with like Chemex. Also, I got like Tez today who gave me 4 energy on turn 1, which this really just turned into 4 energy however I want to spend it over the course of a fight, which is pretty solid. So has some breakable interactions. I think overall is not as insane, but there are ways that you can break it. So I think we'll throw this in bottom of A tier for now. Against like Lagavulin and Matriarch, you can store up energy, and it lets you basically just turn turns where you maybe have too much output into output later. If you have burst energy gain, it can make it a lot better, or a lot more draftable in the first place. So energy cards get kind of more pickable because you no longer have to like line them up with stuff. You can sort of just have excess energy and spend it whenever you want. Obviously, there are a lot of runs where this doesn't do anything because you're trying to get by and you're spending all your energy every turn and you cannot store it up. Yeah, it makes the candelabras way better, but again, is it doing that much? Unclear. Maybe it's like top of B, honestly. I love this relic. It's really fun, but it feels like there's less need for it in this game. There's more like consistent energy generation in cards that I can sort of play. It can do quite a bit, but honestly in the early game, it's not doing very much for you most of the time. Lagavulin was like a main thing. Gremlin Knob was a main thing, but yeah, high ceiling, but not always doing anything. So I think it belongs pretty much bang on average. Okay, Intimidating Helmet. Whenever you play a card that costs 2 or more, gain 4 block. On Necrobinder, this thing goes in. If you have like chunky 2 energy block cards, this is like an insane amount of block throughout the fight. Obviously, not always doing anything. Like a lot of characters don't even have 2-cost cards in their kits. But for the characters that do, or when you do have a 2-cost card, it really is performing pretty well. I think initially I overlooked this thing when I first saw it, but over time my opinion of it has trended upwards. I'm not sure by how much. I think it feels weird to put it like above Ice Cream, so maybe we throw it here in the middle of B tier. Maybe Ice Cream can bump up and this can go up with it into A tier. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure yet, but it does do some very funny stuff. Yeah, surprisingly good. It's better than I thought it would be. Okay, Kunai. Every time you play 3 attacks in a single turn, gain 1 dex. This is unchanged from Spire 1, but is now a rare instead of uncommon. And we have a saying in Spire 1. The chat might be typing it now. Kunai GG. This thing is boss scaling. It is crazy. There's other things in this game that we've already gone over that you play 3 attacks and you get a very mediocre effect. This is not one of them. This lets you do some insane stuff throughout a fight, and basically just outscale any boss. It is really strong. I think we're gonna throw this into A. It's not always something you can really abuse. You sort of need like a 0-cost thing or some sort of way to like play multiple attacks a turn, But most of the characters kind of start with that, except for Clad. And maybe we're just going to notice this problem of Clad just like kind of not having stuff. Other characters do, but Neutralize exists in the Silent deck already. Obviously, you have like Shiv cards, the acro into like pinpoint sort of stuff where you discount like attacks gets a little bit better. Like there's a lot of things that Kunai just plays with kind of conveniently. It makes it really nice to pick. Flash of Steel is colorless and everyone can get it. Depends on the character, but the ceiling on it is so incredibly high. It can literally be run saving. 3 to 4 to 5 decks is just way too much. Way too much. Okay. Lasting Candy. Every other combat, your card reward gains an additional power. This is a really strange relic. As a rare, like, I guess if you're like farming for certain scaling options, it can fix that. It does like help you kill bosses. I'm just not really sure where to rank this. It's like slow and you may see the powers anyways. It kind of just feels like a C tier thing. Like as soon as you get it, maybe not doing anything. Also the power it can like give you is just not really doing anything very often. But obviously it does a little bit more than Girya in most runs. It just doesn't feel like a rare relic worthy thing. Just kind of strange. Okay, let's move on. Lizard Tail, unchanged from Spire 1. When you would die, heal 50% of your max HP instead. If you are at like 5 HP and you get hit by an attack that deals 40, this will just heal you to half. It doesn't bleed over. So that's one thing to think about. Multi-attacks will, however, so be careful about that. But there's a lot of times where you can sort of let this thing go on a big hit and spend your turn doing something else to sort of beat the end game. This is really just something you want to keep for the end game. Obviously, it can save you in the early game, but you want it in the fights that can actually kill you. I oftentimes in this game feel that if I walk into the boss gauntlet with enough HP to play all my powers, I will just win the run. That is something that feels very frequent to me. I walk in, I can ignore the enemy because I have enough HP to just sort of live and deploy all the scaling stuff and know I'll beat the fight. That alone, having this be like 30, 40 HP is enough to just put it into S. I think it's very clear. It's 40 HP basically once in the run. Very strong in Spire 1, still strong in this game. I think there's less stuff that is like you would literally lose the run without the Lizard Tail, but it is such a huge safety net that I don't think you're ever going to be sad to have it. Okay. Mango, upon pickup, raise your max HP by 14. Again, unchanged from Spire 1. A lot of HP. That's all it is. It's just number big. It has good vibes. Do I think it's an insanely broken relic or something? No. In the early game, I'm pretty happy to see it because having 14 HP basically allows me to rest. So it is something that I am happy to see very often just because HP is such a valuable resource. But it's bang on average, I think. It's not insane for a rare relic. Some things do way more. Meat on the Bone. This used to be uncommon. If your HP is at or below 50% at the end of combat, heal 12. Okay, I don't need to talk that much about this. This is just going to S. Basically, you can always skirt this line of being a little bit under half, always heal 12. That's enough to make you just do the same thing in the next fight and never have to rest ever again. This thing is disgusting. It's only not doing something when your just output is so bad that you die from full, but that's solved by just upgrading cards a lot of times. So this lets you just not have to rest and upgrade your deck. It snowballs really, really well throughout the run. If you get this early, it's pretty much a very safe Act 1, almost guaranteed. You really should not be dying with Meat on the Bone very often. Just a crazy, crazy relic. It is very often going to be positive for you to take damage on purpose to go into quote-unquote meat range. So if you are in a fight, you have Meat on the Bone, you might want to think about intentionally taking damage to go into meat range if you think that, you know, you're not going to be able to, or not going to take damage accidentally throughout the rest of it. Okay, Molten Egg. Whenever you add an attack to your deck, upgrade it. This, again, I think attacks are just sort of worse upgrades than the other cards. This was definitely the worst egg in the previous game, and I think it's still the worst egg here. Powers and skills just have better upgrades than attacks. Attacks are very often just 3 to 4 damage upgrades. That's not very significant throughout the course of a run. Early game, obviously insane. Everything you see in the early game, if you got this from Niao, it would be just disgusting. But unfortunately, again, you're really not clicking the option that is going to give you the Niao option to get this. So I don't love it. I think it just goes into like C tier somewhere. It's not very exciting as a rare. There's just much better things. Okay, Mummified Hand. Whenever you play a power, a random card in your hand is free to play that turn. This was one of the most broken relics in Spire 1. I don't think that has really changed in Spire 2. Let's go ahead and throw that into S. Energy is just even more important in this game. You can manipulate what this hits. It is technically random, but if you play all the other cards and leave like your most expensive card last and the power, let's say your hand is like a 1-cost power, some 2 defends and like something else or whatever, you can just play the defense first, play the power, and then discount the expensive thing. It will not hit things that cost 0, so you can manipulate with that as well. Just something to basically think about. But essentially, every time you want to play a power, of which you usually do, you're basically just going to get extra 5 block or something out of it, which really, really strong. Cannot overstate that. If you have like power spam on defect or something with like creative AI, obviously really, really, really good. Okay, old coin. Upon pickup, gain 300 gold. I am surprisingly less happy to see this in Spire 2. Well, I think it's very obvious why. Like, shops are just kind of worse, and your money just doesn't convert to as much as it did in Spire 1. I feel like you could get so much more for your money. Obviously, having 300 gold for a move still just deserves a spot in A tier here. I think if you get this early at all from like a chest and you have a shop you can immediately spend, you're going to get something good out of it. Even just buying potions to convert into HP, to convert into a rest, is very strong. And I think that's something that you need to think about a lot when you're playing Spire, is basically how are you going to turn this gold into long-term advantage? Because gold is really just flexible spending, obviously, but flexible strength. So if you can convert short-term benefit like a bunch of gold into long-term gain, that is going to be really, really good for you. Yeah. Okay. Pocket Watch. Whenever you play 3 or fewer cards during turn, draw 3 additional cards at the start of your next turn. Straight into S tier. This is one of the things that completely warps your run when you see it. You can basically build your entire deck around abusing Pocket Watch and fixes so many problems. This is basically reusable puzzle throughout the entire fight. In the early game, you are very rarely even playing more than 3 cards unless you're playing exactly Regent or Silence. But for the most part, if you get this on anyone, you're still going to be intentionally making decisions like taking Pocket Watch, and it helps you just line up your combo cards together. In this game where there are so many cards that want to be played alongside other cards, Pocket Watch is just disgusting. It's in contention for the best relic in the game. I think its major contender has left the playing field here, so we don't really need to have as much competition for it anymore. Okay, Prayer Wheel. Normal enemies drop an additional card reward. Getting additional card rewards in this game is the main way you're going to scale. Aside from relics, having a good deck is going to let you win the run. I think that much is obvious, but having Prayer Wheel does 2 things. 1, a lot of cards that can only enter the deck when they're alongside another card get a lot more pickable because you're able to look at 2 card rewards at once and pick combos together, which is a lot better than most people think. Also, it lets you be picky. So oftentimes you might have to settle for something because you're scared you might not see anything ever again. The Prayer Wheel basically lets you say that I don't have to be as scared that I'm not going to see the stuff to solve my problems. So the Prayer Wheel is just going to be a really solid relic. Obviously, it depends on when you get it, but the payoff, even though it doesn't do anything, is really strong and almost immediate. And yeah, Incense Burner would be the other relic I was talking about for Spire 1 strength. Okay. Rainbow Ring. The first time you play an attack skill and power each turn, gain 1 strength and 1 dex. This can have a really high ceiling. I think oftentimes in the early game, this is turning into 1 proc of this. You oftentimes don't have the ability to either play your power alongside those things, or you just don't have enough powers in the deck. So sometimes this is, again, literally doing nothing. Other times is pretty breakable, and having like 2 strength, 2 dex in a fight is a really big deal. But I think if you have powers in the first place, they're hopefully scaling you a bit, and that's why you would want the Rainbow Ring anyways, so you're kind of doubling up on the thing that your powers are already doing. It's a little weird. I think I'm going to throw this in B tier. I am very willing to have my mind changed about this thing, but so far it has not felt super amazing. I think the average case is that it's just not doing that much, but can sort of make a boss fight a lot more playable. Oftentimes, you can just like pick a 1-cost power just to trigger this, but it is one of those things that in certain runs is doing nothing, and especially in the bad ones and inside of Act 1, it's not doing anything. And again, that's where a lot of these relics are just going to be really valued, is like either the ceiling is so high that you don't care, it doesn't do anything immediately, or it's just doing way too much right now. Okay, Razor Tooth. Every time you play an attacker skill, upgrade it for the rest of combat. Easy S tier. This is solving early game. This thing is disgusting. I don't know if maybe people haven't played with this yet, but if you haven't, I want you to think about how every single fight now, you just have an APO deployed for free. That's pretty much what this says, and upgrades are really hard to come by in this game. So having your entire deck be upgraded in the second deck cycle, even though it's a little bit slow, solves like every long fight ever, which is like every elite, every boss fight. It's going to just win you the run. It snowballs so insanely hard in the early game. Just disgusting. You're keeping your deck small more in this game than you are in the other game as well. And the fact that it's so strong inside of Act 1 while still being good in the end game, just, yeah, easy S tier. Really, really, really strong. Okay, Shovel. One of my least favorite relics from Spire 1, which maybe people are going to hate me for this, but this thing, I think, just lost me too many runs in Spire 1. It's a really weird decision space where when you go to a fire and you think about digging a relic, sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get something insane. Oftentimes, it is just going to be very positive to press the dig button, but again, I think it's so hard in this game to not rest. It really feels like you have to rest to actually be able to survive. So you can't really risk getting a relic that does nothing, because you will literally die if you do not get the rest right then and there. You oftentimes don't have the ability to really kind of speculate on a shovel dig and maybe get something really broken. If you get something bad, you might die immediately. So I think this thing is going in C tier. It's a bit better than Girya. The immediate payoff is probably better. Vajra is probably not something that's relevant, and that's essentially what you can say, like, okay, if I press dig on shovel and it digs me a Vajra, that's what Girya is, if it just dug a Vajra every time. But that's just not really that good. I think it's very, very scary to hit the dig button. Okay, Shuriken. Every time you play 3 attacks in a single turn, gain 1 strength. This is not as broken as Kunai, but still quite strong. A little bit harder to abuse, I think. Dex is kind of just a better stat than strength for a lot of characters. So let's throw this into top of B tier. Still can be something you build your entire deck around, but a lot of characters like Necrobinder literally doesn't care about this at all. Defect often doesn't care about it at all. Probably best on Silence, and Clad has a hard time proccing it because his base deck has a bash that costs 2. So I think it got a little bit worse, but can obviously do some really cool stuff. I think Regent, surprisingly, is actually probably the best with this, because you have that 0 cost attack in your starting deck, and often having Vuln with strength is going to be better than anything else you can do. So I think Regent, this is probably the best on character-wise, but it's not insane. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Stone Calendar. At the end of turn 7, deal 52 damage to all enemies. This is an incredibly underrated relic, I think, by most players. Stone Calendar really does say just solve your boss output in the early game. If you're scared of dying to the Act 1 boss, or you're scared of dying to an elite that you can sort of sit around and block in, which is a lot of decks, then this sort of just kills the thing for you. It's a lot of output. It's not going to do very much in the end game, but again, having Act 1 be the scariest part of the run, and having Stone Calendar be such a solve for a lot of fights, just anything you're going to sit around and block in, which is a lot of things, it is so much damage. I think it's really crazy. I think in Spire 1 this is in C, but I'm going to put this in B. Like, it's not going to do very much sometimes. Like, if you already have long output solve, it's doing nothing. But if you see this early, you can kind of rest assured that your boss is going to die. And that's one of the main bottlenecks of a lot of runs, is just Act 1. The fights are just really long. Okay, Sturdy Clamp. Up to 10 block persists across turns. This is essentially Calipers. If you cannot overblock, it's not doing anything. It's Calipers that needs you to block less. So if you're able to spend energy on block, it converts into energy in the next turn to be able to play block cards then, essentially. However you want to think about it, it doesn't really matter. It's basically saying if you can block more than what the enemy is doing, you're going to keep block over turns. I think it's pretty solid. The fact that you don't need to overblock by 15 like in Spire 1 makes it a lot more universal. And there are a lot of fights that give you an off turn because they debuff you or something. So the ceiling is not as high as Calipers, but I think in the average run, it's going to perform a lot better. If you break and draw only block, well, now you're not even sad that that happened because you just store it for next turn. I think this is going in bottom of A for me. This is actually a pretty decent relic. The fact that it doesn't actually give output makes it not super top tier, but it does sort of fix bad draw orders, which is something that obviously everyone's going to run into every run. You're just going to get bad draws. Happens. Okay, the courier. This is the merchant no longer runs out of cards, relics, or potions, and his prices are reduced by 20%. Essentially, you can keep clicking a pile and you keep getting new stuff to buy, except for removes. This was uncommon in Spire 1. I don't really like that it's rare because I don't think it's really that strong to begin with. It feels like, one, the relics are too expensive to click. I can no longer just click a common relic for 160 gold. That doesn't happen in this game. So everything I'm clicking is too expensive. I never really have like 400 gold to dump into like speculating on what's underneath them and buying it. A lot of times I'm really just removing every shop. So I think this is just C tier. Unfortunately, like, I love Courier. I think it's really fun. I got Infinite Gold in Spire 1 and had a really fun time clicking 8,000 Mind Blasts by having 100,000 gold with Courier membership card. But yeah, just, it's not really that great in this game. Money is just a weird thing in this game. I think it's just a more strange interaction than it was before. Okay, Toxic Egg. Whenever you add a skill into your deck, upgrade it. This is going into easy S tier, I think. Skills are just the best upgrades. That much is very clear throughout the run. Even in early game, having upgraded block cards, disgusting. Having upgraded skills in the end game is really, really good. All the acceleration and draw engines and so many things just come upgraded. And again, it's really hard to get upgraded cards in this game. So Toxic Egg is by far the best egg. Most things on a character are skills, and the upgrades are the best. So with that being said, like, it's never going to fall off. It's just doing something for you all the time. Apo's more rare in this game even. So, I mean, if that was even a reason why Toxic Egg is worse, whatever. But Toxic Egg into farm hallways and to just pick all the upgraded block cards is like a tale as old as time. That just wins the run, truly. The output is just too high. If you have upgraded blocks, usually you are going to be blocking anything in this game. There's nothing that really requires you to block more than that. So, yeah, just crazy, crazy thing. Tungsten Rod, whenever you lose HP, lose one less. Pretty cool on Cloud when you have self-loss synergies, but overall is not saving you that much. Compared to something that's actually blocking for like 4 or 5 a turn, this is often just blocking for 1 a turn. In multi-enemy fights or multi-hit attacks, it blocks for more. So there's some fights where it's going to be performing way more than that, but something like the Heart is no longer in the game, which was like the main thing where this was just blocking 15. It wasn't that crazy of a relic in Spire 1. It's like saving you chip here and there, so it's just okay. I think we throw it in like B tier. It's just a very average relic. It's not doing insane stuff, but it does something. Okay, Unseizing Top. Whenever you have no cards in hand during your turn, draw a card. Really fun relic. Very rarely plays. Funnily enough, I think it's still better than Giria. It can do stuff. I think there's not very many instances where Unseizing Top's really gonna go in and be like a main way you can actually do things. Oftentimes it's procs like once or twice a run. I think we're gonna throw this in D tier. I love this relic, but man, it is just not that good. It's really hard to make it do anything, and it gets bricked by a million statuses that every enemy seems to add. It also gets bricked by a Sunder's Bin. Just rough. Unsettling Lamp. Each combat, the first time you play a card that debuffs an enemy, double its effect. Gross, gross, gross relic. This is going into A easily. Obviously, if you don't have something that applies a lot of debuffs, it's not going to be very good for you. But something like Necrobinder that can apply Doom to the enemy, this doubles the amount of Doom, which is a crazy interaction. This is going to have a really, really high ceiling. If you have something like Shockwave, that is going to be nuts. If you have cards that deal damage through statuses, if you have poison cards or whatever, this can make the output on those go up by a lot, but oftentimes can just convert to like 1 or 2 weakness, which is not going to be insane. Obviously, something like Bash is going to be a really frequent case for something like this, which is like 2 vuln. So my rare relic giving me 2 extra vuln is not like bad, but it's not going to be insane. It's just that the ceiling is crazy. Sometimes if you don't have very many debuffs, it's just not really doing much for you. So I think we have to bump it down a little bit probably, but it's one of the better relics. It's just not always going to be broken. Okay, Vexing Puzzle Boss. box. At the start of each combat, add a random card into your hand and it costs 0. This, I think, plays better than it reads. You might read this and think it's not very good, but random card gen that costs 0 is just going to be really strong. Toolbox is pretty similar to this in Spire 1, but obviously that does not discount energy. This just gives you a random card, doesn't give you a selection, but allows it to just be played. Can sort of brick you if you are getting like some sort of infinite deck, but yeah, it lasts 0 for the entire combat, which does get really broken sometimes. So this can sometimes just high roll a fight and give you something that completely wins the fight. I think this is definitely easy A tier. Can be really, really strong, like insanely strong. Having just free card draw on turn 1. Again, turn 1 is the most important turn. Having that just helps stop you from getting completely owned. Okay, White Beast statue. Potions always appear in combat rewards. If you see this early, it's going to be really strong, but oftentimes you're not seeing it very early because you cannot see it from the outright. There's less of a chance you're going to get that. So I don't think it's like a run winning relic always. If you're at the point where you can hoard potions, it's not going to be doing that much for you. I think a lot of people look at this and think it's completely broken. They say like, oh, I double the amount of potions I get, whatever. And that is kind of how to think about it. Like, your potion chance is meant to sit at 50% in this game. If you're unaware of how it works, every time you get a potion, your potion chance drops by 10%. Every time you don't, it goes up by 10. So your potion chance on average should swing around 50% throughout the run. So you can really think of this as basically doubling the amount of potion output. It's not as good as it reads. That doesn't mean it's a bad relic, but I think it's important to put that into context, that you are not getting 2 potions ever. You're only ever getting 1. So sometimes it doesn't do anything. If you see it super early, again, really good. But I think let's go ahead and throw this into like bottom of A probably. I'm never buying it, but if I see it and I just pick it up off the ground, probably pretty happy with it. Okay, White Star. Elites drop an additional rare card reward. Unfortunately, while this is super fun, I think oftentimes what I want out of my relics is the power to kill elites, not the ability to be rewarded after I already do so. In the first couple of relics, this is like not something I really am like super happy to see if I'm like struggling to actually get output. The fun factor is definitely there. This is a very cool relic, but I don't think it's broken by any means. It's probably just going to go into B. Rare cards in this game are really good, so if you can farm elites, it's going to be strong. There's a lot of runs where I can't. But if I get like 1 or 2 extra rare cards out of this because I have it in Act 1, maybe, then it's going to be pretty solid for us. I think we'll throw it under Frozen Egg here. Okay. Charon's Ashes. We're in Ironclad specific now. Whenever you exhaust a card, deal 3 damage to all enemies. Really, really strong relic. AoE, you have this work with the Sunder's Bane, makes a lot of things that just exhaust cards in block or exhaust cards in draw, like Burning Pact, whatever. A lot more pickable in early game. A lot of statuses work with this, so if the enemy will daze you, like the Coral guy in Act 1, for example, he's adding a bunch of damage into your deck. So let's throw this in S tier. It's just so much output. This really helps your early game. Ironclad really needs the help, so I think we can throw this over Mummy Hand. Maybe we're dropping Mummy Hand a little bit here. But yeah, it's just a very, very strong relic. Same as it was in Spire 1. No need to really talk about it. Just a lot of output. AoE damage is good. And Ironclad has easy access to exhaust. Demon Tongue. The first time you lose HP on your turn, heal HP equal to the amount lost. Ironclad. This is kind of just saving you your bloodletting HP. So you can sort of think of this as like 2 or 3 like heal every turn. Which is really strong. Over the course of a fight, this could be like 6 to 9 HP, and Bloodletting gets in the deck very frequently. So until Bloodletting is nerfed, which I assume it will be, this is probably just going to go into top of A tier or maybe S tier. Just a lot of sustain. 6 HP a fight is, you know, just doubling your starter relic, and that's a boss relic. So cannot Angry Conscience put that any lower than that. It makes Hemo really cookable, etc. Whatever. Okay, Ruined Helmet. The first time you gain strength each combat, double the amount gained. Unfortunately, Ironclad is often not actually clicking strength cards that often. And if he does, it's not going to be that much. Sometimes you just have a brand or whatever, and you have 1 strength, and this makes you have 2. Like, it's not very often that you're getting a big amount of strength in a burst. This is often 1 or 2 strength that you have to work for. As a rare, not super happy about that. That's a Vajra. I think that's C tier. Very often this is doing nothing. And can do something, but yeah, like, I don't know. Somewhere in here. Not very good. It just takes a lot more effort than I think you want. Okay, Helical Dart. Silence only. Whenever you play a Shiv, gain 1 dexterity this turn. I don't love this. It's like temporary kunai almost, and I don't often have Shivs in the first place. Blade Dance exhausts, man. That's all I gotta say. You're not gonna be able to really abuse this in the same way that you could other characters. It's kind of just the same thing as this like Ruined Helmet. I hate to do that, but it's basically just like 4 or 5 blocks sometimes in like a really good case if you're like playing 2 or 3 Shivs into like 2 block cards or something. Overall, just not doing that much. Okay, Paper Crane, silent only. Enemies with weak deal 40% less damage to you rather than 25. S tier. I'm not gonna waste time. We all know it's there. It's broken. Silence has weak in the starting deck. This is blocking way too much. You will see frequently with this, your endgame enemies, your final bosses, doing like 16 damage to you. It's really easy to keep weak chain on the enemy on silence. You can just block with the base deck. You don't even need dexterity. It's ridiculous. Like, do I need to say more? The entire run, it's blocking 8,000. Disgusting. Okay, tough bandages. Whenever you discard a card during your turn, gain 3 blocks silent only. This was a lot more broken, I think, in Spire 1 when you had Count Gamble not exhausting, and that could be your entire block engine. It is still really broken with that, and can be really broken with Prepared and Acro that gets clicked on sight. So I think we're just throwing this into S tier, but it is not the powerhouse that it once was. Most of the decks are running discard, thankfully, now, so it is going to be proccing a lot, and it's going to be saving a lot of chip. So I think I'd be doing a huge disservice to put this any lower than S, but oftentimes can be doing nothing, or is maybe a 3 block a deck cycle or something like that. So the floor is kind of low. Early game, it maybe not doing that much, and the end game, it's going to be blocking a million, but you probably found some other ways to do that. I don't know. Okay. Lunar Pastry, rare, Regent only. At the end of your turn, gain a star. Having passive star gain on Regent is really good. Early, that's still really good. Late game, it's still really good. If you're making this irrelevant because you generate too many stars, well, you're probably doing okay for yourself. I think for the most part, stars are just a really valuable resource to have on Regent. I don't think this is like completely busted broken, but yeah, we'll go ahead and like throw this in A tier. Just a very solid relic. Okay, mini regents, very cute relic. The first time you spend stars each turn, gain 1 strength. That does not say this turn. That just says 1 strength. You know how easy it is to spend stars on regents? Well, your base deck does it. S tier. Kills every boss in the entire game. Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting relic. This is just so easy to proc, and it's just like basically 1 strength a turn for every fight. That's not okay. Just a not okay relic. That's, you see this very infrequently because it's region only, obviously, and it's rare, but like, oh my god, this thing is so broken. Okay, Orange Doe, regent only. At the start of each combat, add 2 random colorless cards into your hand. This can sort of brick you. It's really weird. Like, obviously colorless cards in card gen is good. I think I'm just going to throw this into A. They don't cost 0, so it can be a little awkward. But colorless cards can be something like Shockwave. It's just that I often don't have energy to actually put into these cards very often. But if you have something like a Master Strategy or maybe a Panic button or something that gets generated, that is really strong. So card gen cannot be bad. Let's go ahead and throw this into A tier. Not as breakable, I think, as the puzzle box, but still really, really solid relic. Helps turn 1 as well. This might be bumped up to S tier. I just haven't seen it enough to really know how broken it is, but I've had it like once and it was really good, but I don't know if it's broken enough to put into S tier. Okay, Big Hat Necrobinder only. At the start of each combat, add 2 random ethereal cards into your hand. Once again, card gen cannot be bad. The ethereal cards on Necro are really good, and if you don't want them, you exhaust them. So they're not having the same problem that Regent's having from the Orange Doe that we just talked about. So this is definitely better than Orange Doe here, and the ethereal cards, which is all really good, can help trigger Banshee's Cry, which is super cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and just put this into A. Notably, Defy is ethereal, and Parse is ethereal, so draw and block and weak. That's all really good. Really, really good. Okay, Bookmark, Necrobinder. At the end of each turn, lower the cost of a random retained card by 1 until played. So obviously can be super breakable, but how often do you actually have retained cards on Necro? I don't feel like it's very often. That's unfortunate. But yeah, I just don't feel like it plays enough. You can maybe add retain to stuff, but it's kind of slow to do that with the common card. It's just, it can be so cool, but I think in most runs it's like doing nothing. In most runs it's literally doing nothing, which is really unfortunate. It can be so good, but yeah, the one run you're gonna get this where it pops off is gonna be really cool, but like, man, it just does nothing most of the time. Okay, Ivory Tile, Necrobinder only. Whenever you play a card that costs 3 or more energy, gain 1. So, kind of a weird card because most of the things you're playing that cost 3 are really just your powers. So it's kind of like a not targeted mummy hand. It's still okay, but just way less versatile than mummy hand. And I think honestly, I'd rather have the helmet that's just way more broad. Like 3 is a lot harder to play than 2. Your deck is like a lot more often filled with cards that cost 3. And domain upgrades to cost 2, so it doesn't even proc. I guess you can just not upgrade it, so it like upgrades your domain. But other than that, like if you discount Banshee's Cry, it doesn't work either. So I think again, this is like a thing that like can do something, but just probably isn't going to do very much. Maybe it gives you 1 energy for deck cycle on a turn that you really want to be playing your expensive stuff, but not crazy. Okay, Emotion Chip. If you lost HP during the previous turn, trigger the passive ability of all orbs at the start of your turn. This is not as good as it was in Spire 1, because in Spire 1, when you have permanent focus, that focus is then applied to the Emotion Chip value. However, the amount of output needed in Spire 2 is less than in Spire 1. So just triggering like your 3 Frost Orbs or like your Dark Orb or your Lightning or your Glass Orbs or whatever, that is just a lot of output. And again, you're going to take chip damage in this game. You can intentionally take 1 to block 2 the next turn and also get some other stuff. So really, really strong. Most defect runs, you're just playing orbs anyways. You're like almost always going to have orbs. I think we just go ahead and throw this into S. This is really easy to just have a lot of output be generated from it. Emotion Chip is still S tier with very little permanent focus. I mean, if you just think about the fact that you like always have 3 orbs, then Emotion Chip is like doubling your orb output, which you can basically think is 2 focus. 2 to 3 focus. That's pretty good. Okay, Metronome. Defect only. The first time you channel 7 orbs each combat, deal 30 damage to all. This is kind of like Stone Calendar. Just really helps your long fights and can do some other stuff. 7 orbs is a lot. So it honestly could be just about as much time as Stone Calendar. I think it's obviously able to come online a lot earlier. If you have like chills and glaciers and stuff, if you have those things, you're probably already doing okay. But it does do AoE damage, which is the kind of fight that those sorts of decks are going to struggle into more. So the fact that it is going to give you sort of like this turn timer to beat like the eels or any AoE fight early game that are like, they're a little bit longer, it's a pretty solid relic. I wouldn't say it's like insane or something, but we can throw it like roughly around Stone Calendar plus like the helmet tier. Okay, Power Cell, rare. At the start of each combat, add 2 0-cost cards from your draw pile into your hand. This is really interesting because it can draw stuff like things that are going to draw 1 card, your finesse, whatever, like you're going to have randomly add it. Can draw like Go for the Eyes, weakness. Can draw your subroutine. I think it's not amazing because I don't often really need it, but like the fact that it's a rare is definitely knocking points off this. I think just draw on turn 1 is good. I mean, I'm not gonna like lie and say that it's not. You oftentimes don't have 0-cost cards or that many of them to really do this. Yeah, Chill is a big one. To pull this into your hand. So it's kind of like situational Bag of Prep. So it's like not as good as Bag of Prep, but can do stuff. Yeah, I'd say Go for the Eyes, and then you can maybe like always rely on having Hologram to pull back a 0-cost. So Hologram plus this is going to be really interesting with 0-cost stuff. Sometimes it's going to do nothing. I think we can like throw this into like B tier, probably, maybe A. It's a rare relic, so it is getting points knocked for that for sure. Okay. That is the last of the rares, so we will go ahead and move on to shops now. Time for shop relics. So some important context here is you cannot see these outside of shops. They're inherently going to be a little more niche than your average relic. They don't always do good stuff, and that's okay for shop relics. You're definitely allowed to have runs where these are just not going to be good if they have really crazy applications where they completely break your run and win on the spot. So the difference between these and like the relics that you can just pick up, that's factored in. Okay, belt buckle. While you have no potions, you have 2 additional dexterity. Kind of a strange relic to buy. I think for the most part, this is for bosses, and you can plan around sort of throwing your pots at the end of the act and outscaling the boss in that way. I think it can let you cheese the boss gauntlet in Act 3. So I'm going to throw this in B tier. I think for the most part, this is like a hard skip. You barely ever buy this early. But in like if you really need to outvalue a boss, like say end of Act 2 or end of Act 3, that is really, really good. Okay, bread. At the start of your first turn, lose 2 energy, I believe. At the start of all other turns, gain 1 energy. S tier. Okay, we did talk about how basically turn 1 is the turn that's most important in the game. However, there's also a lot of ways to compensate for the downside of this. You have ancient boons that do it. You have lantern that helps do it. And you can also basically think of this as playing a power on turn 1 that costs 2 energy that I don't have to draw into. That gives me 1 energy per turn. So I play Pyre, which is an ironclad card that's very good. Turn 1 of every fight. That's not something you want to do in every fight. In a lot of hallways, you don't want to do that. But basically every boss fight, that's something you'd want to do. So the fact that this is a shop relic and you don't have to take that is really nice. And it just can sort of cheese the output requirements for endgame very easily. If you see this like towards the end of Act 3, just snap by it. It basically just wins you the run on the spot. Crazy, crazy thing. Okay, burning sticks. The first time each combat you exhaust a skill, add a copy of it into your hand. This is really strange because it doesn't do it infinitely. So I think if you have something like an adrenaline that you want to duplicate, maybe it can be kind of good. I think for the most part, this is really going to be strange because if I'm exhausting, sometimes I want that thing to go away. And that's most of the time. So I'm going to put this in C tier. I think the application is really limited. It's kind of a small scope of things. Okay, Cauldron. Upon pickup, brew 5 random potions. You only have 2 potion slots in most runs. There are ways to get 2 more and also like 4 more through an ancient boon and potion belt. But for the most part, you're only going to be able to pick up 2 of these. So I don't love it. There is an emote in my Twitch channel if you type for Cauldron because it is something that I bought one time in a run and everyone freaked out about it. It can do really cool stuff. It can save your run, but I think it's very often not something that's going to be very good and not something you want to spend all that money on getting potions. But yeah, it's probably just like D tier. Just quite bad. Chemex. The effects of your X cost cards are increased by 2. This is probably one of the most fun relics in the entire game. Obviously, it's not every run that you're going to have X cost stuff. However, when you do, this is going to be incredibly broken. So I think we're just putting it into A tier. Again, the fact that it's a shop relic and you don't have to pick this up and be sad about it. If it's broken, you can buy it and it's going to be an insanely broken thing in your run. Yeah, crazy with drill, crazy with malaise, crazy with so many things. Like really anything that you can put 2 energy into and have it be a good card, Chemex makes it really broken. You can obviously have other things that are going to be broken with this, but I think a big application for this is cheating energy and just you put 0 energy into an X-Cost card and get 2 out of it. Dirge. Yeah, there's so much that this just breaks completely. Dingy Rug. Card rewards can now contain colorless cards. This is like the prismatic shard of this game. It's just D tier. I don't know why you want this. Just buy the colorless card. It's like spending money on something that may not do anything. Really weird. Like colorless cards are good, sure, but like I don't know. You're kind of breaking your synergy packages. Seems like there's no reason to spend money on this to maybe get nothing. Seems really stupid. Okay, Dragon Fruit. Whenever you gain gold, raise your max HP by 1. Really weird to spend money on. I don't think there's any real application of like abusable gold except for like Hand of Greed. So if you have Hand of Greed, okay, congrats, you kind of have like feed now or something. Strange. I don't know when I'm buying this. It's probably just D tier. Cauldron's probably still a little bit better than it. Dolly's Mirror. Upon pickup, obtain an additional copy of a card in your deck. This is just dupe your best card This can dupe your ancient only cards that are really broken. This can dupe your adrenaline. This can dupe your powers that are already upgraded. The one upgraded card in your deck that you really love, this is going to dupe it. Really insane ceiling. Can obviously be not something you actually want, but again, shop relic. So I think we go ahead and throw this in A tier, top of A tier. It's just going to be very, very strong and a lot of runs. Just a really, really good utility to have. A lot more interactions that, you know, duplicating a card can do now. If you have something like clone, you can dupe that and kind of go exponential. Yeah, some cool stuff. Okay, Ghost Siege. Strikes and defends, gain ethereal, S tier. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. This is like buy on site inside of Act 1, just wins the run for you, exhaust your entire card, like entire base deck, and only play the good cards. I don't know, man. That's crazy. I don't know what they were cooking. This wins every long fight ever. Just disgusting, disgusting relic. That's just gross. Okay, Gnarled Hammer. Upon pickup, enchants up to 3 attacks with Sharp 3. This is one of my new favorite shop relics, I think. If you have anything with multi-attacks in the deck, this is going to be really strong. Sharp 3 basically just says that attack does 3 more damage. So anything that multi-hits, this is proccing, like maybe a Radiate, for example, is like doubling the damage on that card. This enchant can be really, really broken, and I think, especially even early game, just enchanting stuff that it just single hits, like, that's still decent for the amount of money you need to spend on it. So I think this is just going to A tier, really high ceiling. Also, the floor is still pretty good, especially early game, which is where I think shop relics are going to be at their best, is if you can see it in the first shop and buy it for relatively cheap. Okay, Kafuda. Upon pickup, enchants up to 3 cards with Adroit. I believe this is 2 block additionally, if someone can correct me, but I'm going off of memory here. I believe this is 2 block extra on those cards. So there's some interesting stuff you can do with this. It basically just upgrades your defense, but that is really good. I think this is also just going into A tier, maybe a little bit above the thing, just kind of always useful. Maybe drop Chemex for that reason. Again, always useful. Just getting stuff early. 3, okay. I'm getting 2 and 3 mixed signals here, but either way, just gross. Okay, Lava Lamp. At the end of combat, upgrade all card wars if you took no damage. This feels really hard to do and also insanely win more. If you can do this, I guess good for you. You're gonna keep winning, but like, how often is that a thing? I don't know. D tier. How often do you want this, man? Like, if you're that broken, just remove. If your deck is really that good, you're probably just wanting to remove in the shop, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. Like, just remove. Okay, Lee's Waffle. Upon pickup, raise your max HP by 7, heal all of your HP. Can bail you out of a run-losing spot, and I think in this game that this happens more often than in Spire 1. I think we do this in A tier. Not often something that I really want to do, but this can just... Basically, you just say this is buying upgrades, and that's often good enough. Yeah, can just completely save you. So the fact that it can bail you out of any bad spot, if this is just healing you for like 30 or 40, that's still really good. And the fact that its ceiling is like 80 health or something is just nuts. Just completely nuts. Okay, membership card, 50% discount on all products. This costs more now. So like, in order to actually go into a store and just buy it and have it always be positive, you need like 410, 420 gold or something. Which sucks. Gonna be honest, that really sucks. So it's a lot harder to justify picking this up early compared to like getting a 100 gold start in Spire 1 or 250 gold start in Spire 1 and just like buying it. It's not like as auto slam because sometimes he's like, I just want to remove. I think I just throw this in B. That's so sad, but like the context surrounding the game, it's like so much harder to click on this. You're never really that rich because oftentimes you're also not hoarding gold. You're like just removing cards whenever you go to shop. So if you see this in like the second shop, you might only have like 150, 200, 300 gold anyways, and you can't always just buy this. It's just kind of sad. It's just really sad. Okay, miniature 10s. You may choose any number of options at rest sites. Can be really, really breakable, but in general, just always says I can rest and upgrade, which is gross, crazy thing to have. Really, really good relic. Yeah, always being able to heal. That's just like insane. Reduces so much risk in the run, makes your decision space so much easier, to always just be able to upgrade your best card, not have to think about the drawbacks of not resting or be scared that you're gonna die and accept risk. It's just crazy. Okay, Mystic Lighter. Enchanted attacks deal 9 additional damage. This has an insane ceiling. 9 is a really big number, and oftentimes any of your multi-attack things, that's what you're going to be enchanting. So if you have a multi-attack that's been enchanted and then you get this, you're going to be like one-shotting everything. Obviously, like, that doesn't happen super often. Enchanted attacks are like relatively rare. So I think just off of that, oftentimes it's not doing anything. It's hard to buy this in the first shop or whatever. Probably top of B. The ceiling on it's really high though. Like, can just be an S tier relic easily, but it just doesn't happen very often. Okay, Ori, upon pickup, gain 5 card rewards. Again, more expensive in this game, which is really sad. I wish that it was easier to walk into a shop and buy things, but seeing 5 card rewards is still really crazy. I think I would have a hard time not putting this into S tier. It's harder to walk into the first shop and buy this because you just have less gold. But let's say you started with gold and you walk into your first store and you buy Ori, you probably win the run. That's 5 fights worth of cards. That's like fighting 5 things and not taking any damage for it. It's really, really solid. Ringing Triangle. Retain your hand on the first turn of combat. S tier. Gross, relic. I get Pyramid? I get Pyramid for a turn? I mean, it's not Pyramid for the whole fight, but holy crap, it's Pyramid for a turn, which is still nuts. Every time I've had this, it's just completely broken. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Retain is like the best keyword in the game, if not one of the best. So it's just always going to be really, really solid and can line up all your combos for you. Just insane. Okay, Royal Stamp. Upon pickup, choose an attack or skill in your deck to enchant with Royally Approved. This card has Innate and Retain. That can do some really funny stuff. I did this on Regent one time with a card that always comes back to your hand after you play it in blocks, and you just have infinite block for the whole fight. But just giving anything innate, like attack or skill, no powers, but yeah, giving stuff innate can be insanely broken. I'll throw this in A. I think this has like a lower floor, or sorry, a higher floor than Chemax, because obviously you don't need any requirements for it. If you don't have anything you really want to make innates, then you know, obviously not that great, but Retain, again, good keyword, really good keyword. Okay, Punch Dagger. Upon pickup, enchant an attack with Momentum 5. That basically means that every time you play the attack, it's going to scale up for future plays of this. I've had this on a Flechettes before, and it turned into my damage for the entire run. So again, these multi-attacks that I kind of have been like hyping up in my tier list in general, just get more broken with any of these enchantments. And this is one way of like completely solving your run's damage if you're just looping like 1 damage card. So this is basically Rampage, but can be like way crazier. I think this is like maybe just A tier, like bottom of A. Crazy. It can be insane. Obviously like not always broken, but yeah, it can be just disgusting. Okay. Screaming Flagon. I don't know if I pronounced that right. If you enter turn with no cards in your hand, deal 20 damage to all enemies. I don't think I've ever had this relic, but it sounds pretty good. Especially on something like Silence. On other characters, you might have a harder time actually making use of this, but having Silence or having Energy Gen and just dumping your hand dealing 20 AoE seems pretty strong. If you know that you can proc this, it's going to be good, but honestly, in early game, you're probably not going to be able to proc this all that frequently. You need to have energy to dump your hand already, so, or you're just playing silent, you discard stuff. I think I'll throw this in C. It feels a little too niche, but can do like some crazy stuff. I think on silence probably just like A, but yeah, unfortunately not every character is that and cannot dump statuses or whatever, and just doesn't always work. Sling of Courage. Start each elite combat with 2 strength. More expensive than the first game. The first game you already didn't always click this because a lot of fights like bosses doesn't help you in. Very often, I feel like you're not able to actually farm elites even with this, which is unfortunate. So I think I would rather buy something or just make my deck better overall rather than buy Sling of Courage in most cases. Let's throw it in B tier, probably somewhere here. I should like lower this a little bit, but yeah, B tier maybe. And leave it at that. I don't think I have much to say about it. Okay, the Abacus. Whenever you shuffle your draw pile, gain 6 block. Small decks in this game are really common. I'll just say that. It's very often that you're actually just shuffling like multiple times a turn. And this can be an insane amount of output for you. I think overall, I still rate Abacus pretty highly in this game. It's better than Spire 1 and a lot easier to get use out of. So I think I'm going to throw it in A. It might be a little bit overrated and maybe like more deserving of B, but I don't feel like too strongly if it deserves to be like top of B or bottom of A. It's just a really good relic. If it's good, you're going to know it's good. However, oftentimes when it is good, your deck is already sort of doing a thing and it's just patching up a very specific hole that you might have.
Still very good. Toolbox. At the start of each combat, choose one of 3 random colorless cards and add the chosen card into your hand. A lot of colorless cards cost 0. So this can just be Master of Strategy. But it also has the ceiling of maybe being like a shockwave. So being able to choose and tailor your card for the fight and just draw essentially one of 3 cards that you can pick for the combat is insane. This is like easy S tier. I think Toolbox is like one of my favorite relics from Spire 1. If you don't think this thing is strong, you just need to play with it more. It might even be stronger in this game, aside from the fact that it costs more. But since all these shop relics are kind of increased in cost, I think it's pretty fair to just put Toolbox still in the top tier here. Okay, Wing Charm. A random card in each card reward is enchanted with Swift 1, which I believe when you play it for the first time, each combat you draw 1 card. On powers, this is really cool. Can help you just dig through your deck faster. The fact that it's card rewards and not cards that you already have is a little bit more sad. So it can do something. I think if you see it early and you have gold to spare, then it's fine. But for the most part, I think you don't have a lot of money to go around in the early game. You're not very often so ahead of curve that you can spend on a speculative thing like this. So for that reason, it's probably just going into C for me. Brimstone. At the start of your turn, gain 2 strength and all enemies gain 1 strength. D tier. This will kill you. This will quite literally just kill you. I think maybe without the heart's existence, right? In this game, it's going to be better. But there's a lot of fights where just buffing the enemy just straight up means you die. The B guy, this is just not going to be strong enough to actually warrant. There's no strength payoff in this game. It's just disgustingly bad in a lot of fights. It adds so much risk to your run. This will, if you pick it, I think at low skill levels, make you win more runs. Okay? This will cheese wins. It will give you really easy wins. I think if you're consistent at the game, this is never going to be something that you want. So if you are kind of like a player who's winning like 1, maybe 10, 20%, right? At a 10. You can click this on site. It's just going to build bad habits. And I think once you get to high Ascension, you're probably just never going to click it. Yeah, Spire 1 Garbo, it like kills you. It's just completely unplayable. Okay, Ninja Scroll. At the start of each combat, add 3 shivs into your hand. Silence only. Shop Relic. Very good though. One of the few front-loaded relics and works with a lot of the ninja relics like the kunai, the fan, the nunchucks, the shuriken, whatever. A lot of things that just buff shivs or whatever. Like works with a lot of things, just front-loaded. Maybe throw this in A because I don't think it's as busted as like these things necessarily. But yeah, one of the few things I can actually walk into the shop and feel good about buying basically. That's it. Okay. Vitruvian Minion. Regent only. Cards containing minion deal double damage and gain double block. This is really niche. There's not that many things that this really applies on. Like minion strike, for example, and also guards. Like, dude, how often am I really relying on that to deal damage? It's just C tier. Let's be real. If you have guards in your deck, you're probably full blocking, and you're probably just going infinite because that card does that too. Yeah, very different. I just don't think it's doing very much. I'll just put it bottom of C. Undying Sigil. Enemies with at least as much Doom as HP deal 50% less damage. Necro. So this really is just block on the final turn of an enemy before they die. Early game, I think this can do something if you're primarily killing stuff through Doom. Most of the time, it's probably not doing that much. It's kind of just okay. I think it's pretty decidedly average, like a B tier. If you know it's going to be good, you probably can click it, but maybe like top of C or maybe just somewhere in C. It's just weird. If you have that much Doom on stuff and you're killing them, usually it's because the fight went long and usually you can block, but can randomly save HP here and there. It's just like, how often am I walking to the shop and that's the best thing to buy? I don't know. Man, money is a limited resource. Like, spend your gold on something else. Runic Ambassador, defect only. Start each combat with 3 additional orb slots. S tier. That is even debatably more broken than it was in Spire 1, and that was already like one of the best rocks in the game. Hotfix being common and also Focus Strike being common make this thing just completely breakable. Orb slots are more important in this game than they were in Spire 1. And there's no inserter anymore, so this is one of the only ways you can actually get orbs outside of just playing cards. I think it might be the only way. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, but off of memory. I don't think Darv can give Inserter. Anyways, yeah, Barrage is buffed. You want orbs to play with your temp focus because that's how you scale focus, is having more slots, having more frost. You don't have to play a card to do anything. It's just crazy. This just kills bosses. It kills hallways. It just invalidates so much of the game. Just one of the most click on sight relics you can possibly imagine. It just will become broken. You don't have to like try to make it broken. It just will be. I think that is all the tier listing for tonight, which this is pretty long. So Asuki's got work cut out for her to chop this up. I will post these lists under my profile, probably. Yeah, let me go ahead and save them all to my profile. I'm going to go ahead and write like a release patch specific on them and then link all this. I'll probably just link my profile so you guys can see all of the lists together. I'm kind of glad that I got my release patch stuff mostly done so far, a tier listing at least, because I think it'd be cool to go back and look at them later. And I also read the effects out, so even if they get changed and we forget what they do like 5 years from now, then we'll still have that.